Welcome back to Stasis Geek, and we've got a little bit of fun today with Nerd Takes. How are you, my good
Hello,
friend?
hello. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, well, it could be. We could go into a hell of a pit of a pain revisiting the Acolytes.
Yeah, happy to be
Episode
here
1, 2,
now.
and 3. Yeah, happy to
Happy
be
to
there
be
now.
here
But
now. Let's see how it goes.
yeah, so we're gonna have a little chat about what we've seen, our point of view, what we've seen online, and what the rumors to come, what could happen, what will we think might happen, and is this show's going to get any worse or any better? I think it doesn't have much hope, but we'll see how it goes. And before we start, Tom B, gentlemen, as always, gifted 5 memberships to the channel
Man, what a legend.
whilst we were starting. So, what? Mark Shaw, still Lego history. Jason John, 427 Kevin. Well, that's a twister name. And then Stephen Merck. So, yes, thank you. And of course, Sandy Hugh. Thanks for watching so we don't have to. It's always a pleasure. I like watching terrible things for everybody else. It's great. Like the worst thing is, like, I think it's probably the same. Like, I love Star Wars, and then just seeing it get butchered like this. This is like a butchering, I think, of like your soul. If like you just want, like, I was one of those ones probably after the Last Jedi, where I was like, they're going to turn it around, they're going to do something, and I think we all got a little bit of a snippet. Probably season 1 of the Mando, everybody kind of liked. And then you're like, oh, what are they going to do next? And it's just kind of dived a bit, like, and then I think just the cherry on the cake for most people who had that kind of sway of like, it might be good. You know, we're going to give it another go. This got a quite interesting time period. The concept's quite good. If you ignored the background shouty from the stars, the producers, directors, the showrunners, it could have been a good concept. And then we get the Acolyte as it is. And it's it hurt. It's actually like hurts as just watching it just go, oh, this is dribbly. This is literally, it's not even bad entertainment that you could actually go, I'm just going to watch it and cringe. This is laughable cringe of like, how are they destroying this IP that should be making like billions of billions like a year, and they seem to they are trying their hardest to lose not just money, but kind of now starting to lose the fans.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you have a good point too, because, coming off The Last Jedi, things were rough. I've never seen a fan base more divided than after that movie. But then, and then you got what? Solo after that, which I think universally everybody hated for the most part. But then you got Rogue One. I think maybe Rogue One was after that. I could have the timeline mixed up. Again, another bit of a split. Some people, I don't mind that one. I don't think it's great. It's whatever. But then after Mando season 1, yeah, there was a lot of people who were like, oh, this was solid. Mando season 2 became a bit of key jangling, but I think looking back, it was, that Luke Skywalker scene at the end. I think everybody's got a pretty, different opinion on it at this point. But at the time, it created a lot of buzz. So, like, things started to seem like maybe Disney can kind of fix what's going on. And then from there, it's just been a nosedive. I mean, brutal.
Yeah, it's kind of like, they got a lot of hype from Luke, hello CGI Luke, but it's still Luke coming back, and it was kind of, it was over the top, but everybody was like, oh, that's what I wanted to see. I wanted that in the sequel. So a lot of people, like Luke, for me, wasn't what I was a Luke fan when I was younger playing with the toys. So, but to see him, you're like, yes, that's what we wanted. And I think it got a lot of people past, I suppose, the hurt of what they saw their hero in The Last Jedi becoming, or did become, nothing really. And then from there, that kind of snowballed into like show after show of like either not real hard storytelling. The galaxy wasn't going anywhere. We're getting rhetoric, I suppose, from the hierarchy in Lucasfilm Disney, and then it just kind of like announcements after announcement, cancellations after cancellations, and then you get this announcement. Now, if you go on the back of it, we're in a timeline that nobody's really ventured in. You have the High Republic books that have sold terribly. They've like, it's really bad selling market, that, but the idea of what they were doing, the period is actually, oh, this could work. But then they get a showrunner who really shouldn't be really anywhere near any projects like that. She hasn't got the background record. She's got a past that shouldn't be really there.
Yeah,
so
right.
if we even ignore that, it was like, I don't know if you saw Star Wars Celebrations.
Yep.
Just what the cast was saying, she was
Mhm.
like, oh, you really do not know Star Wars. And it was just, like, oh, just playing up to being, I know that 10 seconds on TikTok. It was. I
Right.
was like, oh, but you don't know actually the environment. The not just, you don't need to, like, nobody knows 100% of the lore, like, all the time. I'm there with it. It's just, it was just literally there. Let's have that TikTok moment. I've said it, move on. Oh, look, I've said I love the Star Wars. It was a bit odd. But yeah, having then this Acolyte come out, and then the kind of, I suppose, like, synoptics come out of like what this show is actually about. And everybody was like, that's a bit odd. That's it.
Mhm.
And them coming out defending it. And then finally we get to kind of go, hold it, you're defending it before we've even seen it. Episode 1. Let's watch that. And
Right.
I think these things, I thought it was stupid. I really thought, like, really quick on that. I know we're going to probably go more to episode 3, but episode 1, I just found really stupid and like really dumb. Like, everything played on it was just a mismatch of like how you would write a story, how you get to like A to B and then move
Exactly.
on, or the narrative onto it. And then you had episode 2. I was just literally, I was bored. It was the first ever one. Like, I'm not a fan of Andor. I found that boring, but this was literally a dragging on. I was like, oh, I am suffering here of absolute boredom. But
And I would even say those two mistakes are forgivable to a degree. I say it all the time. Like, I can forgive making stupid decisions or telling a bad story or overlooking logic. I can forgive it to a degree, but I can't forgive, direct agenda kind of shoehorning into stories. That's where I think episode 3 was like, all right, we're a little bit too far along here.
Yeah, they now, it's the worst thing that I think they did is the promotional bits before, with all the, I'm going to call it, I love calling them Disney defenders, because all the people they were interviewing were licking their ass, kind of like
Right.
how they were like promoting it. It wasn't anything, is this show good? Like, you can, that show is the first for something else, and you're like, but is it, like, can you tell me about Star Wars? Can you tell me about the world building? What are you actually doing? And they were just laughing it off. And I'm like, this isn't one professional. You should be like promoting the show, not promoting something you've got behind the scenes, and it was just like a really fit for the like the galaxy. Now, I'm always the things like that. I love Star Wars, and like other shows like Star Trek or whatever like that, is it takes you out of the real world. It immerses you into a different thing, especially with Star Wars. Like, if you were bullied as a kid, a lot of people had that, like being the nerd. You could immerse yourself in Star Wars, like take yourself out of the environment. Now, this one is literally full modern day. It's literally, you just might as well be set on Earth and call it like a futuristic Star Wars, like on Earth. It is just, it's, like from like the beginning with the two actresses, like, okay, they're trying their hardest. They probably don't know, have an agenda, but they were just, it was just bad dialogue. Nobody knew how to direct them. Nobody, like, the cinematography was just bland. It looked like you were watching like a quantum leap static shot. Let's move on to the next one quick, pick it all up. And then they got into like I suppose the adult actors who should be, able to act. And there's actually only one actor in this whole series who's learned English in the last 4 months,
Right.
who's actually bloody trying.
Right. Is given some kind of emotion to the role. And and to clarify, I guess actually what I just said about forgiveness too. Like I said, I can forgive stupidity to a degree. This goes beyond that degree. This show is so poorly written, so illogical. Like you said, the dialogue's awful. The story has no connective events that make sense. It's like, let's do this, move on to this, move on to this. There's no logic connecting them. There's nothing that makes sense about this show thus far. And it's like scene to scene, or episode to episode. We'll probably dive into it a bit in some examples, but the logic is just not there. Like, at one point, Saul, is saving somebody from falling with the Force. The next time, he's running and diving as if he's just a normal human. It's like, did you forget you knew that type of stuff is like, this is beyond the degree of stupidity that can be forgiven. I'm not going to be, afraid to criticize this for what it is, which is awful.
Yeah. The only way I could have, if they were building up to something, and I mean a build up of like, that Scooby-Doo moment, but they've not done it. Because what they could have done if you actually, because they're making out the Jedi to be the bad guys. They are
Yes.
really like thing. But if they didn't show the temple and then just had these Jedi, you know, trying to find somebody, that would have been a great theory, because everybody gone, hold it, why aren't they communicating with any other Jedis? Oh, are they dark side users? It would have got that, and then have that kind of, they could have had a twist, and then that would, you're being clever, liking it. But it's not, because it's literally, here you go, see this bit, move on to the next one. All right, scene 1 done. Does it connect with scene 2? Who cares?
Right.
It's just literally move on. And it's like with like episode 3, it's even the opening with they're at the life tree out of Avatar,
whatever,
call it.
whatever the hell that is.
Like why was that even there? Just to go her to be kind of cruel to the butterfly or whatever it is,
the little creature, right?
Yeah, like that's all it's there to fit in that. Oh, look, one's mean, one's not, and then the first thing you see is Soul kind of there, and you're like, but he's a Jedi. Why is he skulking around?
Right.
That's a bit odd. And literally, how did he get there? And he's landed on a planet. Now, yeah, a lot of it in Star Wars, you can agree, they always land in the right spot. And like,
fair enough.
And even most sci-fi
and that's some of the forgivable things. It's like, not likely, but we can forgive that.
But there's like no, why are they there? It's just they've come across them on a planet that happens to be. They've even said that, like, I think like they're so out of the Coruscant's control. And so you're on the outer rim, where Jedi didn't really go to that often. So this is like far, far away. It's out of the hyperlanes and all that. So why are they there? That would have been interesting. No, we're just going to skip it. You know, they could have crash landed, you know, and there'd been an accident. And then they found across, there's two force sensitive people here.
Exactly.
You know, had that.
What tips them off to the idea that there's force sensitive twins on this planet? There's seemingly no explanation. And it's like what you said. Yeah, maybe they're building up to something. Sure. What are the odds that they are, though? Have they shown us anything in the history of Disney Star Wars that says they're good enough writers at any project that they've done to think that they're actually building up to some clever reveal that makes it all make sense? Like, and another thing too, that you know, you spoke about this right at the beginning with that Star Wars Celebration and getting those kind of TikTok quotes, but them fundamentally misunderstanding Star Wars at its core is this whole thing with the Jedi. You could definitely do a story of the Jedi being evil, or a couple of Jedi in the Order being evil. You know, you could look to the prequels with the coming of the Emperor and Palpatine, and how he was essentially, you know, not that he was a Jedi, but he seemed like he was, you know, working with them to a degree, but he had his own agenda. Like, there is a clever way to tell a story of an alleged good guy that actually has an evil plan. You could have done that. But every single thing we've seen from these scenes of the witches and their planet and all that stuff, from the very beginning with May essentially torturing that small creature, like there is nothing showing that there is some good nature to these guys and not the Jedi. And then the Jedi show up and they're very respectful. They want to go by the process of law. They don't want to just take these kids. Like, it's everything is counterintuitive to what they're trying to set up versus what we're seeing. It's mind blowing.
Yeah, that it's a bit weird. Like, even like when the Jedi turn up, like, yeah, you got that, like the bit when they're just before the Jedi turn up is very, you know, they're doing the ascension, is it?
Yep,
that's it. They will prepare into that, and I'm like, well, how comes it's taken this long? Is there like an age? And then you go, hold it, they're at a certain age. Okay, they look, I'm going to be nice. They're probably 8, you know, like in the show, I suppose to be. And then you're like, hold it, then Anakin, we unknown that he was too old. So then they get there, and then it's a weird thing. It's I think I said this in my live, like they kind of break in the Jedi. They like scared and all that into this massive fortress. That why is that there? How has that got there? I'm guessing the witches came across it, so is it ancient?
Kind of moved into it, type of thing, potentially.
It's like what happened to the, like, it would have been good to, like, the Jedi turn up. You're not supposed to be on this planet. It's been abandoned for X reason. You know, there's dark side presence here that we've kind of, you know, quarantined the planet. There could have been any reason, but it's not. We're just here. We're just here.
We're hermit crabs. We just found a shell and moved in.
We just kind of landed on this planet for no reason. Then we sensed two force users. Oh, hi, you two. You're not supposed to be here with these witches. And then they don't kind of address that these witches. I'm guessing there would be records that they've been victimized, they've had to run away from whatever, like being oppressing them, there would be records of that. And they don't address it. There's literally no addressing on this. And this is where, like, it's literally, this is like the first, like, I don't know, 20 minutes of the show, and nothing's been addressed, nothing fits together. And you're just like, why are they there? And you're just really confused. It's like, oh, and now you're going to do the testing. And you're like, oh, come on. It's just like eyebrow raising. And it's like, it's funny to see like people trying to defend that it is connecting. I'm like, yeah, but you're just using your head canon. Now I can use my head canon to say I'm ignoring that whole film, but I'm not going to put interconnecting link if the showrunner hasn't shown me that. It's like when Rian Johnson had to bring out loads of books to explain what he did in The Last Jedi because he couldn't have enough writing capability to show you on screen. So it's like, oh, you know, there is a book. If you read about that, we'll tell you what that person was thinking at that time. You're like, but you didn't show me, so I don't care.
Exactly.
It's just like, yeah, and that's the same.
For nothing. When you make a product that bad, as The Last Jedi, for example, what the hell is there to entice me to go read the book on top of it? You've already disappointed me with the writing the first time. I'm not going to go read a book's worth of it.
But yeah, that's the same. Like the whole. The problem with it, like this, like especially just episode 3, is there's no connective tissue. But how it feels like, and I would take the piss because I asked my girlfriend, who's of course a fashion designer, what are they wearing? And she told me like calico, whatever it is, and it's 99p a meter. And I was like, they fitted it on every you watch, and that's what really takes me out, is there's no fashion. They kept everybody in the same material. It all looks a bit cheap. So that kind of takes me back a bit. It's like, but it all looks shiny. It all looks like they've just got it from Primark.
Looks like
that day. Yeah, it looks like, but it's like none of it's worn, none of it's dirty. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi in A New Hope, they made it rough. He's been on that desert a while. He's, his robes, there's a bit of dirt. Everything is pristine. It's like, it is just, look, cosplay today, guys. I'm going Star Wars, and it's just. And it's just like, so that's it. And then you've got this weird, I must say, whatever you think about Star Wars, you take out John Williams, that's a different movie. They are different movies. The music set up from like Star Wars A New Hope to the other movies that gives you Star Wars. That gives you that opera. I'm watching it. This music in this is actually atrocious, and I'm not just on about the chanting.
Well, that's a whole nother side, a whole nother level of atrocious. No, I agree, because, and that's something where you see it in a lot of iconic IPs and iconic films, even TV shows as well. But like, for example, it's often referenced that Gotham is its own character. I would make the argument as a Harry Potter fan that Hogwarts is its own character. When you see it, you feel something. It ignites something in your your nostalgia, your viewing experience of the movies, of the show, whatever it might be, or the comics, for example, if it's Batman and Gotham. I would make the argument that the music in Star Wars and John Williams' theme has that exact same effect. When you hear that song come on, you know exactly what you're watching. The emotion starts to build inside you. You get the little goosebumps, or you used to at least. You get the little goosebumps, all that. It is an integral part of the character of Star Wars. Meaning like its characteristics, not so much a character, but this one just lacks any of that.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't get what the composer was getting. It's a lot of it is very subtle. Even when they're supposed to be I always have the subtitles on because I just find it funny what Disney put on as subtitles, because they tell you what the music's actually doing, and I'm like, and it's just like, but that's like, if you're gonna make a mysterious music, then give me that, give me that grandeur. There's nothing there, and then we have to talk about it. Then they get onto probably the most. It's not even the most cringeworthy Star Wars thing. I think it's probably like in the last 10 years, the scene where they're chanting, and you're supposed to be given a very smart murder mystery, or whatever you want. You're trying to be smart. You can guess the showrunners think they're smart, and then they give you power of one, power of two, power of many, literally. And I was like, that is it. Like, it would be poor of me to say it feels like a 7-year-old wrote it.
Honestly,
he could actually write better. And it's just like, it is very bizarre. And I was like, how could anybody, you watch that and nobody, And this is where you get not just the showrunners, not just the producers. Nobody has the balls in any of the production thing to go, that looks a bit weird. Just to let you know, it looks like you're doing a bit of a, like, you know, a bit of a psycho chance there. And it's like that. It was very, very bizarre. It's like it could have been watching a documentary just before Heaven's Gate, you know, when they all pop the pills. It was literally, I was like, oh, what is this? But like, people take the piss out of it, of like people doing that in like the forest and all that, you know, you see like these weird retreats, and you're like, you just went there, didn't you? But I don't think they thought that. I really think they thought that was excellent. That gives
they
it
must
this
have.
mystery. They give this like this mystery over the witches of what they are. They're not normal, but then all they do is get this purple dust, I suppose, the best way to do it, and then that's it. And you're like,
some
where did
imprint
that
on your
come from?
forehead, and that's that.
Yeah.
No, and as far as that chant, so it was, I guess let me start with saying there's a lot of things that are silly and stupid in movies and TV that I'll kind of, do a bit of a nose laugh at, where you kind of just scoff at it a little bit, like, oh, that was stupid. There's not that many times I audibly burst out in a laugh at how foolish or silly something is. This was 100% one of those times.
Yeah.
It was so
I think
bad,
I had a couple of
cringe. And then the worst part is, not only is the chant stupid as hell, they then lace it with a song of the same exact lyrics right on top of it. So now you're hearing it twice over, and it's like, how many people did this pass before somebody was going to stand up and say, this sounds really cringe, guys. We might want to change this a little bit. At least get rid of the second dubbing of it with the song.
But that's the thing, is like, it's not a scene that is instrumental to the plot line, so they could have gone back and reshot it. And somebody must have, like, after you watched it and gone, that's bad. Or they could have just cut the scene and just showed an ascension of them like getting the purple and made it like a without any music. But they purposely wanted it. It's like, no, we need that. That is instrumental to show me like who the witches are. And then afterwards, you just like, oh, like, you're like, it's laughable, but in a really like, oh no, I don't want to be laughing because you're destroying Star Wars. Right. And it's like destroying it in a very, very bizarre, like, it's just pathetic way. And it's just like, what am I watching? It's like, it's like somebody just accidentally you went to go and make a coffee, come back, somebody actually then sat on a remote and you're watching a different program. You're like, where's my program? Oh, I just put this on.
That's a scene where legitimately, thankfully, my girlfriend was not home when I was watching it, because had she walked in and heard that, she would have been like, dude, what the hell are you watching? And I would have been embarrassed. I'm like, I got to do it for a review, man. It's not something I'm enjoying.
Would be. It's like, I would be more
watching that.
Yeah, I think I would be more happy being like get caught watching porn or something than watching that if I get booked in. No, I'm not watching Star Wars. Honestly, it went over.
Honestly, it was just bizarre. And then just another point about that scene that it's like, the more I relive this episode, the more it's like peeling back the layers of an onion on a therapy session. So even in that scene, like, they felt that scene was integral to tell some part of whatever the hell is going on with the story in their mind, which we have to assume the story, because we get quotes of this repeatedly, and essentially it's what they're showing with the Jedi, that, what does the mother say, that it's the Force is about, or whatever they call it, the thread, whatever they call it, it's about a power. It's not about good or bad, it's a power, and who's allowed to use it or not. So you have to imagine at this point they're trying to set up this narrative that the witches are good and the Jedi are the bad guys in this. That seems to be what they've been going for this entire time. And in that scene that they found integral to telling that part of the story, they have Osha seemingly apprehensive to join or to go through with this ascension process, basically showing that even she knows these witches are doing something that's not necessarily, something she wants to be a part of, which is, again, the consistency, but they haven't got the storytelling.
They haven't got the forefront in the writing to show you why. Because one, how does she like instantly Jedi better, but Jedi good?
Yeah.
Like, why does she like you? You've been on. I'm guessing you've been on this planet all your life. So, and they've sheltered you. So they're not going to tell you about other people that can, I suppose, use the thread, if they're whatever they're going to call it. It's a stupid name. But I can live with that. Like, in the past, George signed off loads of you like Force users. I can you can understand, but they've just done it in like such a dumb way. It's it's just like, oh, look, a coven of witches. You could have just made it, look, we're Force users. We don't want to be part of the Republic. We want to be away. But like the Jedi, have a way they can train them better. Nope.
Sorry, I got
Your
to mute
dog.
real quick because my dog's barking here. Even he doesn't like the Acolyte.
Yeah. But yeah, they kind of instigate it straight away. Is like, no, witches are good, Jedi here are bad, and they're here to harm our kids. But then you have the May going, I want to stay here, and then what's the other one's name? Voice forget.
Osha.
Osha is like, oh no, I need to leave. I need to leave. I need to adventure outside my world that I know it. But then they that would have been quite good if she was like, they could have had a scene at the beginning instead of the stupid tree when you see it is at night looking at the stars, and seeing the ship go by and wanting to leave, have that kind of thing. And the other one, no, I'm happy here and I want to stay. And then it's just like the silly little says, the moments, like they just interject. Oh look, we said that. Why? Like, why did you say that? And it's like even to the point, like, and I'm going to backlash on this bit. I know a lot of people say about they're all lesbians. They've been made by the Force, but it's not actually triggered by that because they're all mothers. They kind of integrate because when the old woman comes out of nowhere, who's like the kind of the elder witch, I suppose, is they all calling them mothers. So I think it sees episode 2 when they say, oh, she like something about the mothers, isn't it? So like your mothers or whatever. And then this one, it's I created, you carried. So it's kind of like a surrogate. I would say they're more than that, but they never say in it they use the thread or use the Force, or anything like that. They could, like I said this, like they literally could have had like another dark side user, did something, or chemicals, like IVF or whatever, it could have been something completely different, but they kind of just subtly drag you into that to make you think that, because the show runner has said it, kind of, this is what we're going to talk about, but it's not stamped in there. They could easily kind of change it, but I think it's there just to piss people off sometimes. I was just like, in the show, like just out of the show, it was just like, oh, this is going to get a bit of ooh, because there is no need for it. Like, it doesn't drive the story forward. I can understand if it did, like, oh, you're going to play on this relationship, with the mothers, and there's a reason, but they don't. They just go, oh, this is it. I created, you carried. Move on. And you're like, oh, we're not going to have, there's like a loving relationship there. They could have made, that would have been more interesting if they made the two, I suppose, I can't remember the main witch and the other one with the horns, is if they gave that, like, made it a more romantic. So when, spoilers, is when they apparently die, they could have gone, oh, you felt a bit sorry that they've lost their kids, and all that, but there's nothing there. It's just skipped over. There's not enough time. And then you're like, what? But you've just spent 15 minutes dribbling. So you could have built that relationship straight away instead of focusing on that. You're telling everybody straight off the bat, Jedi bad, Jedi bad. Just going to let you know every moment, subtle hints, Jedi here. Ooh, lock the doors. We got to be scared of them.
And I would agree. I think, and we talked a little bit about this on the Wednesday podcast. I actually do agree with you. I think the idea of the implied sexuality of the witches has been a little bit overblown by, those who are unhappy with the show. I think there's a lot more kind of factually things done wrong that make the show bad. Other than that, I do also agree that I think everything in the marketing of it, we saw the press interview with the main star and the creator where, they talk about it being that type of show and all that, and the biggest of all time for Star Wars. So I think they've implied it more in promotional material than they showed it in those scenes. I think they leave some room to even believe that this, covenant or cult of witches, whatever the hell it is, functions similar to that of, monks, where, monks don't have any kind of particular sexuality. It's just they all live and function under the same beliefs and all that. There's no implied sexuality there, obviously. So I think you could take it as that in terms of how it was written and how we see it. We even see that scene when the Jedi come to, see, and again, the line is ridiculous because the Jedi come peacefully and respectfully to kind of show the law. You have that one random witch in the back that screams out, they want to take our children. So there's some kind of collective type of commune life going on here that doesn't necessarily imply there's a sexuality thing in there. I can see where people are drawing that, especially based off the promotional material. But I think, it does a better justice to criticizing this show to stick with the fundamental flaws in it.
Yeah, because like even with that, that's a good point. Like with the monks, but it would be like straight off the bat, like when the Jedi come, like the woman shouts, ah! Like, you know, they're like all going nutty, and you're like, but wouldn't, like, they've turned up respectfully, even though they said like they didn't knock on the door like near enough, like, but if you showed respect back and then say, look, you have your ways of training the Force users or the Fred, we have our ways and they differ. We don't believe in your, you know, rule of law, but we believe we can teach them better. And then they could have had that really, you know, fickle back and forth, like, no, you know, and it would have made the Jedi look a bit up themselves. You know, no, we know how to do it better than you because we've had like 10,000 years training, and you know, you only got it because of X, Y, and Z, you know, but it would have been there. But they just go straight away, no, you can't take our kids. And you're like, but you don't really know why they're here. Like, they just get there and then they sense, you know, oh, you know, look, there's two of them, you know, we need to test them, you know, but it is a bit odd.
And they even go as far as to say the line of, which I thought was one of the few times they give some kind of development to what they're trying to tell story-wise, where I, for the life of me, couldn't remember the names of any of these characters in terms of the witches. But the one mother who was the one that carried versus the main mother that seems to be the lead of it all, you know, they have this exchange of, I carried them, but I created them. And then the mother who carried them says, yes, but you know, what would happen if they found out how you created them? So there is, you know, like you said, that chemical is, maybe it's something to do with chemicals, some kind of dark force, some kind of dark magic, something that they don't want the Jedis to know of how they made them beyond just, you know, natural kind of.
Yeah. I would say it would be very stupid, not just of the showrunner, but you'd have like Dave Filoni and all that in the background of going, no, you don't use the Force. Only Anakin got used the Force. If they go that route, a lot of people even are going to hit it more, because at the moment, I said it's applied. There's a lot of a shout on social, but it's not being shown. If they do that and just show it, then I think that's going to be like, you lose
a lot of people.
Yeah, you
lose the franchise. You know, you lose the. I mean, you already kind of have. Don't get me wrong, but that's when you really kind of put the stake or the last nail in the coffin of like destruction of the franchise. And to this point, you could even say, you know, the whole. As I said before, you know, they have a fundamental misunderstanding of Star Wars in terms of you know, this line that they keep repeating in promotional material and now lines in the show of the Force isn't about good or bad. Like, no, the Force is very legitimately about good or bad. Star Wars is a story of good or bad and the choices that lead each people to each side, and then redemption from those choices if one can manage the, you know, ability to make those difficult choices to redeem yourself. This show wants to blur that line and blur, you know, the idea of good and bad for whatever reason. And you could, you know, I think a lot of people like, oh, you know, that destroys, you know, the meaning of Star Wars. I think it spits in the face of it, but you could still kind of come up with the, you know, it's a little bit of headcanon, I guess, to a degree, but you could still come up with the logic that might just be this particular group of people's view of the Force. It doesn't mean it applies to the entire, you know, the entirety of Star Wars and the Star Wars universe until they go the next step, which is to make it part of the fabric of the IP. If they choose to do so.
Yeah, the only problem with this, they went off the bat, and I think it's I'm sure it's episode 1, is with the green alien. Or that it might be 2. Is like when she does one of the killings, and then she's like, "You got to come back here." She's really aggressive. No, this is not like kind of the Jedi way. You can't just go and save people. Like, he knows where to go next, and that's of course to episode 4 as well. But to that, it's like shot down. It's like, no, we know, like, there's only 4 of us. I'm one of them. I know where they're going next, you know, you know, and it only can be the Wookiee. And it's just like, oh, you're kind of making that straight away. It's like there's something rotten in the Jedi Temple. And then you know, like a lot of people, I'm guessing, who's like into Star Wars, you know, well, Yoda's there. There's other really like old, ancient Force users that are going to be there mentoring, and all we get to see is green alien kind of just go, look at me, I'm right. Not a two-way conversation. And then afterwards, you're like,
exactly.
But the only, like, even when Qui-Gon Jinn was having like his standing point with like the council about Anakin, he was respectful. He might have been thoughtful, might have overstepped the mark, but no point he didn't like listen to their say. He was always like, no, we have a two-way conversation. So they just went, it's just,
it was a major, I'm right, you're wrong. Let's sweep this under the rug. There was no willingness by that green alien, who, again, her name is slipping my mind because they're all
but there's no willingness. But like, it's like it could have been like a droid or hologram.
Honestly.
A hologram. It was like pointless. But yeah, I say that
there was there
The
was no
showrunner's wife.
willingness of her to. Yes, that's right, Galadorn. That is, she's a bad actress too. But
Oh,
there was
yeah.
no willingness of her to discover the truth about this former Padawan. It was just some random witness from some planet, who knows how far away, says that she was the one who did it. You know damn well this person has a twin. You're all just assuming she died at this point, which fair enough. But you know, given the scene we saw, I guess fair enough. But you know damn well she has a twin. It's very uncharacteristic of her, and you're just taking this is somebody you at one point knew and trusted to bring into your order, and you're taking the eyewitness truth from some random person in the galaxy instead of looking into the situation. And this is where Saul seems to be the only competent character to a degree, even though they write some of his logic poorly in different scenes, but he's the one who says, like, no, I know this person. I trained this person. She was my Padawan. There's no way that she did this. Let me look into it. Let me see what's going on here. He's the only one showing anything that's Jedi-like.
Yeah, but that's I think he's acting. And that's it. He's like,
that's the difference.
Even though some of his dialogue, and it's even to the bit where like, oh, I didn't do it. It was my sister. Oh, she's dead. No, she's not. Oh, I believe you. And that was kind of, but even in that, he's trying to deliver that stupid dialogue.
Right.
And you can see it. And that's
it.
He's literally like, fair play to him. He's like, he's on point. He's being like how a Jedi react, how they would feel. And it's the only good thing. But what he's got to like to be surrounded with is just dog turd. It's like everything else. You're like, oh, and he must be like, oh, I'm glad I don't know that much English because I don't have to listen to what everybody else is saying.
And that's actually a great point with some of his logic too, where it's like, I mentioned that in my review of episode 1, where the scene prior to that, he just explained to his Padawan and Yor that he knows without a doubt for a fact he saw May die in that accident. This is something that's unquestionable to him. It is solid fact, as solid as a rock. 2 seconds later, all Osha has to say is, nope, I saw May. She's still alive, or whatever the hell she says. And he's like, oh, yeah, I believe you. Like,
but
even that is bizarre.
Yeah, but then when the fire on stone happens, but then even when the gantry like falls and she falls in, and then that's then doesn't make sense because he's there and he doesn't double check. He doesn't. Oh, totally. I'm going to sense and see if she's still alive. Might be there, really badly injured, but he's just like, no, next move on. Let's get out of here. And I'm like, but there's not much fire going on now, and you're just going to run away. It's just like it was that whole bit. It was just odd.
And of all the scenes in the show, that might be one of the least logical for many different things that's happening in it. And it's probably the worst scene in terms of storytelling. And that's hard to say when you have a scene that had that chant and that woman screaming.
That bit is
that whole scene. It's because Osha leaves through apparently you would have to assume that's a secret tunnel in her room that only she knows of, or maybe May knows of it. But she leaves through that secret tunnel. She gets through it. She goes to wherever the hell that underground area is with the bridge. May happens to be there at the exact same time she arrives. And then May starts having this dialogue as if she didn't just set the whole place on fire. Like, and then not only that, you have to back at the same time.
You have to backtrack before that, is because you got Osha. She's packing her triangle book, isn't she?
Right.
Like she wants to leave. And then May turns up and goes, what you doing? And she's like, I'm like kind of, you are sisters, so you should be able to talk to each other even at that age. And then she just goes, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, she just jumps right to that out of nowhere. We're talking about children here.
My.
And then oh God!
It reminds me of the puppy. I kill you. It just reminded me. I was like, no, you just like people don't talk like that. It's how you could write down a script and go, oh no, like kids won't talk about that. They might have a bit of a skirmish, go like that, but no,
I'm going to beat you up, or
first thing I'm going to do.
Don't jump to that.
Yeah, but she goes, I'm going to kill you, locks her in, and then the fire bit. It was just stupid. I think somebody had an idea, but they then went, oh, we need a fire. We need another fire. This one's not in space, so don't worry. But we need it to accelerate really, really quickly because we need to get to scene, as she goes, secret passage where it's all going to happen. How do we do that? And somebody's just in the background went, we just make it go really fast.
Yeah.
Reason?
No,
No reason.
reason.
Just gonna go fast.
It's just gonna
Yeah.
ignite the whole place. And you
Yeah.
make actually a great point. It's from the beginning of that triangle notebook scene where that whole sequence then starts of some of the most illogical stuff in the whole episode.
Yeah, you're like,
because then you
how did
see
that?
right. So after that fire inexplicably starts gaining momentum at a crazy rate as if it's a forest fire in a stone temple. Then you have what you hear while she's going through the tunnel is some explosion. So you have to assume that that's what killed everybody above her. Fast forward, you get a little bit to that scene where May falls. Saul happens to be in the same place at the exact same time, inexplicably. Instead of saving both of them with the force.
But why was he there?
Why
was
he
even there?
It makes no sense. How did he even know that area was there? How did he know they would be there? No reasoning.
Yeah.
He goes to dive and save them as if it's Lion King with Scar and Mufasa by grabbing him by the arm. Like he would have just used the force and saved both, obviously. Yeah. Then they're running through the temple afterwards to see all the destruction. And then you see all the witches that are dead from the explosion. And it's like, okay, the one thing we know about explosions is that it's an extreme outward force. That's the definition of an explosion. It's an extreme high-powered outward force. All these people are laying on top of each other, positioned perfectly as if they're in a little pile or a circle.
That's why
it's
like Heaven's Gate.
It's bizarre.
They just all lay down and died. It's like Farscape, isn't it? They all just lay down and died. Yeah. It's just like what happened?
And then they walk one room over, and there's a couple more, including the main mother, who's just laying down in the same spot as some others.
I don't get that's what I'm saying. Like they spent is it 180 million budget, and they couldn't make some real devastation on that.
Yeah, some destruction.
Like actually, bits falling on them. They a couple of them could have been really main, but all their garments, if you go back to it, all their garments are in pieces. It's still in one piece. It's at least rip something. You've had stone, brick, whatever, machinery would have been flowing around. Not to the shards. There's a couple of pockets of fire. There's a couple of sparks. There's no smoke. I can understand if Saul was like, look, we need to get out of here. We can't breathe.
Fumes, they're not coughing. At least I don't think they were coughing. Maybe I overlooked that because I was just laughing at the scene, but I don't remember them coughing from smoke or gases in the air, nothing. See, if I'm wrong on that, forgive me, but
the next bit when she's on the gurney and she's got the respirator on,
right?
I'm guessing oxygen respirator. It would be good if they showed Saul stand he needed one or something. Right. He was or
maybe he's because he's older. He's sitting over her, having his watching him because he cares about her. Maybe he's not unconscious like she is because she's a child. But no, he's fine. She for some reason needed it. He didn't. It makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, it is just a bit. But that. We're going on to things it's funny. We move on a bit from the episode 3. Is the show episode itself is bad. It is one of the worst written things I've ever seen. And I've watched a lot of rubbish.
Yeah, same. And I can even say that there's rubbish that I like. There are some bad movies and shows that I know they're bad, but I enjoy it. This is beyond, at least for me, the ability to enjoy this.
Now, before we go on to the what can happen, it's been more amusing. I think it's been more amusing to see the Disney defenders trying to defend that show, because now there are being good, I suppose, series or something Series 7 of the Clone Wars. Most people liked it, but they only liked it for the Ahsoka bit, but everybody kind of went, the rest of it's rubbish. This is a terrible, and it's just to see that literally everybody shouted and screamed straight away. They were like, it's great. Everybody's bombing this. Right. Everybody thinks, and it's quite entertaining just to see the numbers. People go, is it that bad? And they must be watching it, and then they're going, oh, it is bad.
It is that bad.
Now I think it's last time I looked, it's 14% on Rotten.
How do you argue that's just review bombing?
Yeah,
and that's too much to be just review bombing.
No, and it's 3.5 on IMDb,
right?
And if you take out the unweighted, it's a 3. So that's even worse. And then you're like, okay, let's go by their logic. I have to go by, I'm going to be a bit of a defender here. Now, if they're true, and if this was actually just using maths, and I think I said this and that, wouldn't it be a 50-50 split? Probably Last Jedi, it wasn't a 50-50 split, people who liked it and disliked it, because you're going to get the silent shopper, and it's everybody I've ever spoken to who don't do social, they hate it. So you're probably going to get but the people who social, Yeah, they're going to do it on that and have a Rotten Tomatoes account or an IMDb account. You're saying that was literally now it's swung one way, and nobody who liked the show, who has an account, bothered putting in a rating. And I'm like, that wouldn't happen if it was what they're saying is everybody's hating on it because they're being, bigots or whatever. It's like, no, that argument can't stand because the numbers are so high of people going in and doing it, and it would reverse it. Because I always say, like, this probably has got a lot of ones more than anything else. Like this episode will get a lot of people to go one done it, but it has a lot of tens, and this isn't a one.
That was what
and if I have the things like this episode, it's a terrible. It's like it does hit a 1 or a 2, but the season isn't a 1 or a 2. So if you take that into consideration, it's not a 10. It's not like it never could be a 10. It's not perfect, and it won't be. It won't be as bad as a 1 unless it gets worse. And I mean, like literally, I think I gave the first one like a 3 and a 2, and this one, it was hard to even give it a 2. But if it gets worse, that's going to drag that down. Like, and it's I can't defend. I just find it funny because you can't defend the people. Like, if you like something, you like something, but are you liking it because you're so used to the level, like the middle of the road show, like that? Because what you could give most people who had 180 million budget for like an 8 episode series is like, it'd be like a gem, it would be like, like they just have a decent writer, and actually you could have had, a better set design, and it's just like that. But it's just like everything I said, like it just looks, where's the money gone? Who's been laundering it? But it's like, it's quite amusing to see the social stance at the moment.
No, absolutely. And I think what's interesting to me about these hardcore defenders of Disney Star Wars is that they always want to point to the idea of review bombing, as if positive review bombing doesn't happen as well, which is like exactly what you pointed out. Yeah, there's a lot of 1s, and it's overwhelmingly 1 to the point where, yes, some people are just pissed off putting in 1. I get it. This episode was legitimately close to being a 1, to be honest with you. Fair enough. But like you said, the series itself, not that this is considerably better, but it's probably around a 3.5 at best. So anybody who's given it a 10 is completely full of it as well. You're doing the same thing as the people overdoing the 1, just from the opposite side of the spectrum. And I do think it's out of just this choosing up teams in terms of the divide between the Star Wars fan base at this point, where it's just this rivalry of there's this group that just defends Disney Star Wars to, tooth and nail for whatever reason, and can't seem to want to be critical of it. But not only that, they can't seem to let anybody else be critical of it either.
No,
they have this bizarre issue with, like I sent you that tweet in Discord of, and I know this is an extreme person, but it's just a perfect example of a lot of these extremes, because these are the people doing the 10s and that kind of stuff, and saying before it came out that it's the best Star Wars show ever. Somebody saying in response to, I think it was a Star Wars Theory tweet, where he said, he's never seen the Star Wars fan base this united, at least in terms of the side that's upset with the show. And then somebody responds with, I just want to enjoy the show. Those of us enjoying it are fighting for our lives out here. And it's like, that is just so bizarre and dramatic. Look, I like Batman versus Superman, right? The extended cut better. I know it's a shit movie. I know it is. I know it's not great, but I can enjoy it. People
I think
shitting on it left and right
all got that movie
from enjoying it.
Yeah, some movies you go, I enjoy it, and then everybody else is like, really? Are you stupid? And I went, I don't care.
Yep,
I don't care.
It's fun. I like the action in it. I like the effects. Those are the parts that hit for me. I'm cool with that. If it's on TV, I'll throw that shit on and I'll watch it. I have no issue with it. I know damn well that it's not a good movie. It's bad. It's flat out bad. But I can enjoy it.
There are movies, there is. And like
people saying
you would never go in there and go 10 out of 10 just to like because.
Right.
You're like, and that's the problem is like you have that thing. It's like, I enjoy it. That's still a like you probably go, look, it's still like a 5 out of 10.
Yeah,
because I know it's like it is. I know it's
a mess. It's not good.
Enjoy it. Yeah, it's not good. Yeah, if you kind of sway in what it's going to be, but this is it's very. As I'm saying, it's like if somebody told them, like, if you gave it a proper review, you'll get something better, and they'll be like, and they'd like, I can guarantee, and I think they still go 10 out of 10. You'd be like, no, if you made it, you think it's a 5, what you actually think it is, we will give you something better. 10 out of 10.
Well, and that's the thing. And I mentioned this on the podcast on Wednesday. There's a level of fandom or some fans in fandoms that think you're not a good fan if you criticize things. And that to me is bizarre. I use the example on the podcast of, I'm a Red Sox fan. I'm a Celtics fan, whatever. I'm a Boston sports fan. So Red Sox
is it going to be love or hate in the chat?
Yeah, fair enough. If so, we've won quite a bit, but no. But the core of the kind of example to use there is Red Sox are a perfect example because we have one of the worst ownerships in baseball in terms of their greediness over money, and they're just putting out a bad product to stay under budget to get out of the luxury tax. They put money over into Liverpool because they own Liverpool as well, and they'd rather see that team do well at the moment. Even years ago, Liverpool had an issue with them because it was the opposite, where they were putting more money into Red Sox. So like they're a very money motivated ownership group. And there's a lot of people who find it, if you criticize the Red Sox, you're not a good Red Sox fan. Look, if I don't criticize the Red Sox and if we don't do it at large as a fan base, they're going to continue to roll out a shitty roster that's under the luxury tax, that has no business ever even making the playoffs, never mind trying to win a World Series. And on top of that, they're going to still charge you top dollar to go sit at Fenway and have a stupid ass hot dog and a beer on a hot summer's day. Like, you have to be critical in order to enact change. And the more critical we are, like this year, for example, we're starting to hear some pushback from ownership and things like that. And like that to me is the essential core of being a fan, not this blind faith of everything's great, everything's fine, one day it'll turn around. No, you have to be critical in order to enact some kind of change. The same goes for IPs, movies, whether it's Marvel, DC, Star Wars, whatever it may be. That to me is fandom, actually being able to love something and be passionate about it so much that you're willing to criticize it in order to try to make it better.
Yeah, that's what I say. Like it's funny, like that, like sports, like is quite good because if you bugger up, your team's going to go out of business. Like Disney have got the luxury to give this. I don't like to say the political narrative or whatever they're doing at the moment, but they burn a lot of money. Like there's like I always say, if they come out and say Star Wars made $1 billion. Like every year it's made $1 billion. Okay, we're going to deduct everything out of it, but we're still making $1 billion. I'd be like, that's still bad. Usually that's a $4 billion business a year. It's just like they killed all the toys. They killed all the hosts.
Sitting on the shelves.
Nobody cares. Like you can guarantee nobody's going to buy these toys.
No,
there's literally, I'm going to have a figure of witches. Like, or just like, no, you're not going to do it. It's going to be like that. There's nothing to.
They're not even going to sell inherent
toys. Like, yeah, there's like, if you're like Han Solo, like if you're going to be like a Solo fan, like Chewbacca, you're having a little plate and having a thing. Right. You're like Leia, you're going to be that. And even like with the prequels, you got Anakin, you got Obi-Wan, all you can have a bit of fun with. Like lately, there's nobody. You go, they're a cool character. Like Soul, he's a good acting. But it's not a cool character.
Right.
It's not and like you go, and this is like sci-fi. This is supposed to be Buck Rogers in space, matinee, kind of have a bit of fun, come out, and do you want to swing your sword around and pretend it's a lightsaber with your mate and have a bit of fun? Now, I'm not saying that all Star Wars projects need to have lightsabers, but you kind of want to get your pistol out and have a pop and a shot, and they're like that. But that's the problem is they've now changed their, not just family views, they've changed this view of like they want to get like the female audience in. But what are they actually drawing in? Because if you piss off your larger audience, isn't then your smaller audience going to be swayed away from it as well? Because they can't write female characters, is blatantly obvious because they're not interested anymore. And then they came out, didn't they? Like one of them, I can't remember, said there's not been really female heroes in Star Wars, and I was like, oh, off your pop.
And that's just a ridiculous argument. And on top of that, it ruins the cultural impact and influence of the IP itself. Look at something like Game of Thrones. After those last 2 seasons, the cultural relevance of Game of Thrones dropped off a cliff. Nobody cared about it. Nobody was buying merch. Nobody was buying anything. And I know we say, luckily it's doing better with House of Dragons now, but like you just said, not that.
But look at that redemption they got, because House of the Dragon, like that first season, I was like, that's good, I like it. But I won't recommend anybody watch Game of Thrones. I was like, you're gonna get hurt.
Yeah,
you're gonna get hurt. Then last day, but I was like, anybody else this? I went, with it. So far, I'm liking it. I'm gonna warn you, this is what happened in Game of Thrones. But they've got a bit of a redemption there, and the figures are doing well. They played, but it's still like I would love to see episode by episode, like budget numbers. Because Game of Thrones looks high budget And I bet it's like a quarter
And I'm sure it
of what
is.
it is. Yeah, but it looks good. It looks slick. It's well, like it just looks, feels, like Game of Thrones, I suppose, that feel. But how this doesn't feel Star Wars, and they've got it completely
with the ridiculous budget too.
Yeah, and it's just like how you got nobody to go sense check. What's that look like? Hold it. That's not how lighting would go. It's a bit odd. That's not how, because what you got to replicate is the original cinematographers. Replicate that, not how George Lucas directs it, because at the end of the day, like how much like George did the IP, he's not the greatest director. He's still not like he's more of the back, can tell you what to do, just do it for me. He's good at that.
What do they say? Masha was a huge driving force in no pun intended with force, but in making those movies what they were. And I think something, you just pointed it out with the figures for House of Dragon doing well, the toys, the merch, the figures, is that, again, I know you and I, we're collectors. I can obviously see your background. I've got all my collected,
not at all. It's all fake.
Yeah. we're nerds. This is
somebody went, have you got a green screen? And I was like, grabbing. And I was like, no,
but this is what we do as nerds. Like, this stuff means something to us. And our tough times in life, I hate when they try to say, oh, this is just a movie. It's just this. Is it? Like, no, this stuff is things that means a lot to us. We use it in tough times. We use it in good times to kind of just enjoy, to feel better, things like that. So we do collect. We do all that stuff.
Yeah. So it's not that's it. Like I was brought up like with 4 channels. That's just it. So you got that and everything. But if you're like in a different like back in the early like late 70s, early 80s, like you might come from like a broken home, like shouting, your parents shouting, all that, and then your immersion is like, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to enjoy my Star Wars.
This is your escape.
That's your escapism, because your parents or whoever could be shouting and screaming. You might come from that, but that's what you remember. You remember that joy. You like you could blank out the shouting, whatever. But now, like, you got nothing. You're like, oh, I can't even look forward to it. I'm not on about my age, of course. I'm on about younger kids. It's like how like this. Even this show isn't for kids. And everybody's like, we had it with Jar Jar, like, and it was the media who kind of killed that. I like Phantom Menace. I like the Phantom Menace. I do
too. It's flawed, but I enjoy it.
It's but that whole thing, and then look at everybody's like kicking it, like it was all social media. Sorry, social media wasn't a thing then. And then then like they came out, but it was like, and then people go, look, Jar Jar's stupid. Yeah, most people would probably agree, and then they go, but it was made for kids. But so was A New Hope. And that didn't have the stupidity in it. But this show is not made for kids. It isn't. It's like for like a Twilight teen, I suppose is the best way to do it. It's like that kind of in between.
Yeah, the like, CW kind of age group.
But it's like, well, what you think? Because it's very dark. There's like, an actual killing, really, not by, a lightsaber or a blaster. So you see a knife
in the chest, blood drips down, the whole deal.
So I'm like, well, I don't want this, for younger. My kid's only 3, and of course, you ain't going to be watching it. But like, I'm like, no, it's a bit too. You have to be a bit older, because this has actually got real death in it. Yeah, it's still fantasy entertainment, but it's still got there. So I don't know what you're driving on, because you like, it's not going to be like a family. You sit down as a family. Star Wars is on, yay! You go, because you're like, oh, it's a bit dark. It's a weird like time. It's what 9 p.m. your time, and it's like in the morning here. So like, what you're aiming for, and it's on Disney Plus. But your Disney Plus is supposed to be family friendly, and you've just made a non-family friendly show. And it's just it's things, but
and even in the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy, there are parts that are a little bit dark. You look at Luke coming back and finding his aunt and his uncle. Obviously burnt to a crisp. You find Anakin going back.
That was a great life lesson when I saw
exactly, and that's the difference.
Like,
that's the difference. It's not violence for the sake of we need to put a violent scene where this lady gets a knife in the chest. It was to show something, to show, emotion, things like that. Same for Anakin with Smee in finding her in the tent, beaten to a pulp, essentially by the Tusken Raiders. It helps you understand why Anakin struggles so hard with the balance of good versus bad. There was art to it, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Well,
so you can't introduce that if there's a message and art to it.
Well, it is, because even when you see him, he's finally turned and he's kind of crying at the like in Revenge of the Sith when he turns, and it's a great shot, isn't it? But his eyes are like, he's gone like and it's like that, but you can see the struggle there. And it's like, if that wasn't in his face, that would just look like a really evil man just turning around,
But you see that inner turmoil, and that's where I know George Lucas is not a perfect director, and I know he's probably better a bit behind the scenes, But those are the things that outweigh the issues with the prequel trilogy for me to be able to say I do still enjoy those. I think there was a lot of good storytelling in there. I even think, and one thing, this is a little bit of a side tangent here, but I just thought of it now thinking of the stories of those movies. One thing that pisses me off to no end is the narrative now from defenders of Disney Star Wars, where we see, and I don't want to go too into this for YouTube purposes, but when we see certain political ideologies and things like that being crammed into the storytelling,
yeah,
and we
that's why
say
I think
we don't want politics in our Star Wars, they always love to look at the prequel trilogy and say that was all about politics. Yes, it was about politics as it pertained to that universe and that story. It wasn't outer world, real-time politics being pushed into a story. It was a situation created within that universe, within the scope of what was going on with them, and in that world and in that story.
Well, they got that whole thing even with the OT. They did it with Return of the Jedi. Oh, it's about Vietnam. No, he just said he wanted to make a Vietnam movie, and he was brought up, so it's got heavily it's gonna But then he's also said, I really wanted to rip off Flash Gordon. I wanted the rights to Buck Rogers.
Right.
I'm sorry, you can't have that and that. No, I'm going to be influenced in my life by my beings, but
what you've gone through, that's how people tell stories since the beginning of time, since cavemen to William Shakespeare to everybody, afterwards. Stories are told based off your experiences, or if you're observant enough, the experiences you've seen others go through. And that's what
now
makes
the writer has blatantly never experienced anything. He's just in a bubble. And it's just like, oh, it's your own little bubble here. Yeah, just tell me a story about yourself. It would have been more interesting, probably having like a documentary on the showrunner than actually watching this. It probably would have been entertaining. You'd be like a bit eye-opening.
What horrors have you seen and witnessed?
Yeah. But as we just got that, what do you think episode 4? Ooh, and could it go down? I don't think single digits, but now I'm going to see it tomorrow, so you're going to feel the pain. First of all, things like
in
that.
A few hours.
So this when the rumors come out, because all the critics, like the pre-things, they got to see 1, 2, 3, and 4, didn't they? So they said like number 1 and 2 is very bad and very boring and blah. Then they were on point with episode 3, but they did also, like a lot of them of different media types have said, where this episode 3 is going to piss people off. Yeah. This is going to destroy Star Wars. Cool. And I was like,
which is hard to imagine, right?
Yeah. And that I was like, that is good. Now
you can actually do worse than you already have.
This one is going to be, there is I think it came out on Star Wars Twitter or the Acolyte Twitter. I can't feed which one it was, or X. They've got a new character that we're going to get, and it's a tracker. Alien tracker that will sense out May, I am guessing, or whoever. Yeah. So they introduce pronouns for the alien. It's the first time in Star Wars. And I'm going to go back to your point. That is modern day. That is probably modern day California at the most. And it's not a galaxy far, far away. Like, why would the need to even mention the guy aliens pronouns? It's just it's no. So that's gonna be straight off the bat. You've announced that that's gonna piss off people, because there's a lot of people who, either side you don't agree on pronouns, like that. We're not gonna go into that right here, but that's gonna piss off. You've got another element you're gonna piss off. So that's gonna be one out of 10. That's it. But
sorry, go ahead.
But on top of that, you've got the storyline of where we were left off in episode 2, and now we're going back to the Wookiee, because that's this episode. So we're going back again. And I completely forgot. I was like, hold it, where are we? Because we had such a flashback. You expect us to be following the kids now, but it's not. We're going back to the end of episode 2 with the Wookiee.
To where that Wookiee was on whatever planet he was on, and shows he was a Jedi. And one thing I think about the the whole pronoun stuff, I think it's going to piss off a lot of people. Like you said, not even if you have a strong opinion about pronouns or not, maybe you do, whatever. We're not here to talk about that at the moment, but it's going to be the breaking of immersion that pisses off a lot of people who are in the middle of that, whole topic. And it goes to what you said a few minutes ago about there's, the people who used to watch whatever it was, Star Wars or whatever it may have been. The people who used to watch this as an escape from things in real life, those are going to be the people who get, even more pissed off that now I don't even have an escape. And good luck with that. Once you lose the fans in the middle, it's no longer about this split, base, which you could have said, maybe you could make the argument it was a 50-50, 60-40 type of split, 70-30 even at times after The Last Jedi. Now you're going to be looking at a 90-10 type of split because you're going to lose all those people in the middle.
Yeah, it's just like, I've had enough. This isn't fantasy. It's just literally you're
Well, that's exactly it.
It's going to feel
fantasy.
to most people, it will feel like you're preaching. It will be. It'd be like that.
And it sticks out like a sore thumb too, because I was watching that movie Atlas with Jennifer Lopez, which I unfortunately had to watch to do a review on for Netflix, that Netflix movie. And there's one scene. So the premise of it, I won't go into spoilers, but the premise of it is it's almost like, these people in the future is an AI issue. AI is, trying to wipe out humanity. And the humans have figured out this way to kind of blend AI in terms of like a Neuralink type thing with these massive mech suits. And, right when Jennifer Lopez's character Atlas finally finds, gets introduced to one of these mech suits and finds out that it's actually run by AI and has this Neuralink, which is something she's very much against, given the plot of the movie, which I won't spoil. The AI, the mech suit's name is like Cindy or something, something along those lines. I can't remember. Cindy, Susie, who gives a shit? But it's some name like that where Jennifer Lopez says, she, I don't want to pair with her, or she's, something along the lines where she says she. And she actually says it. She calls it an it. And the robot then says, actually, my pronouns are she, her. And it immediately my eye rolls. I'm like, now robots have pronouns. This is what we're doing here. So it sticks out like a sore thumb, makes you roll your eyes. And you're just like,
but that's it, because what is the need for it? And that's why I always ask, if you're going to introduce something, there's got to be a need for it. Nobody's just a human being or a robot in that case. There's why. What does that, did that drive the story forward?
It's never mentioned again. Never mentioned again. It was just,
and I bet you this will be off the cuff, comment,
likely.
and it will not mean, and it will just
and then you'll see Twitter freak out and all that.
This episode could be a bang. It could be, really good. That will piss off people.
Right.
As soon as that happens, you're going to get people that you've just taken me into the real world. I didn't want to be there. And then you're just going to get pissed off. People go, you just absolute, twat waffles. We're just literally, I'm eye rolling, and you're like, no, thank you. You've just spoiled for me. But then you're going to get the people who, on the flip side to that, will think it's the greatest thing that you've introduced it into Star Wars. And you're like, no, because it's supposed to be and this is what they forget. You're supposed to be in a galaxy far away and back in time. It's a historical program. It's like, that's what they forget. It's like, you're not supposed to have modern day, and that was the whole point of getting away, to the love of cinema or whatever your favorite TV program. You were supposed to get away from your daily life.
There's a reason the term a galaxy far away was chosen specifically, and it was because of that exact thing, immersion and taking you out of the real world. And I think Disney, not just Disney, excuse me, my water here. Not just Disney, but I think a lot of these companies who are doing this kind of stuff still function under the idea that, the no press is bad press type of thing. And this rage kind of reaction from one side, and the over protection of it from the defender's side. They see it trending, every Tuesday night, and they think that equates to success for the program. It's like, it does not. What equates to success is making money. There is no two ways about it. When it comes to making film and TV, what equates to success is, did you make money off it or not? Now you've had movies that don't make money and are cult classics, that were good movies and things like that, didn't do well at the box office, Big Lebowski, Scarface, things like that, but end up becoming cult classics that people like. And that's all good and well. And the movie lives on kind of infamously forever, or maybe just famously forever, which is all good and well for that project. But I can guarantee you they wanted to make money on those movies in theaters, in the box office, to call them a success.
Well, that's it. They now go so heavily on the algorithm of it. You're like, whatever social thing is this has been, whoever's doing their social is heavy. It's probably the heaviest I've ever seen any social media for a TV show. It's all the time. It's guess that we're going to put 4 tweets out or whatever, in the hour. And then you're going to get that. People taking the piss, people defending it. People hating it, people loving it. Understand that. But that drives the thing. But that remit of people watching it isn't the people who are just, I'm just going to turn it off and not say anything, and I'm just going to move on with my life.
Right.
And that's the problem. They forget about that. People who just go off, move on to the next thing. I can't be bothered to deal with this. I don't need to talk about it. I don't need to pick up anything. It's just boring. I'm done. And that's what they forget about. There's going to be a hell of a large portion who ain't going to come back to the next one. Like, what is the next one with Jude Law? I forgot what it's called. That's the next. I can't remember. That's the next show, isn't it? Jude Law's one.
Does he? Oh, see, I didn't even realize he had one.
Yeah, that one.
From,
yeah, so I can't remember what it's called, but he's got his one coming up. But most people would just be like, I'm done. I'm just not going to take the risk on watching it. Or if they do, they just watch it. I like whenever. I just can't be bothered. And that's the
point
problem
where it doesn't help the metrics for anything going.
Yeah, and it's just like that. So they're aiming at, well, if we just engage both sides of like, look, they hate you because you love it, and they're like, and vice versa. And it's like, what is that engaging anybody? Are you learning from it? No, you're not. You're just going to give this thing. So if this show, like next episode, destroys it, and I don't know how that, because that pronouns, that's stupid. I get that, but is it going to destroy it? So what do you think off the back of what you now know of episode 2? What do you think is going to happen?
So what I know, at least as far as what's coming in episode 4, that is actually the extent of what I know, is that, pronouns, interjection, and all that. And as much as that's going to break immersion and annoy people, and obviously some people are going to cheer for it, I don't think that's enough to ruin it the way that they say, people have said it's gonna. So I am very curious to figure out what it is that ruins the kind of entirety of Star Wars lore. I honestly don't have much of an idea. I'd love to hear maybe what you've heard, because I've been so like begrudgingly involved in this series that I haven't looked too far into it.
Yeah, there was, and I did it a good year ago. We're gonna have our first sex scene in Star Wars,
which is just unnecessary.
And I'm guessing how it's led up. I don't think this was it, because I'm guessing if the critics would be like, they would have leaked that. They would have said, no, in this one we're getting whatever, So I'm guessing it's not in this episode, but kind of pre-spoilers, I'm guessing, for the show, if anybody doesn't want to know quickly. But I guess a lot of people don't care. Is they turn up to the Wookiee, like after this tracker tracks him down, even though they've already apparently announced they do know where he is. And they find him dead.
Oh, really?
So we don't get the Wookiee. There might be a fight previously to that, but he's easily dead. Yeah. So they go, and then there's a monster that, like, they know May's still on the planet, but then there's a monster apparently that goes to kill May, but May has to kill the monster. And then the Jedi, whoever's there, feels sorry for her because she protects her, because she's upset about it.
Because she got attacked? She just killed 3 people in cold blood.
Yeah, you just killed 3 people, and then, okay, you've defended yourself against a monster, but sorry, you're still going to be brought in. But at that point, don't know where. So there's going to be some inconnecting tissue. I don't even know what you call it, literally the fan play with the lightsaber, the actual bad, the one we see with the right. I don't, has it even got a name? She, he, whatever. I don't even know if it's got a name yet. It's just the I don't know, the dark side user. So they
shadowy figure, I guess. I have no idea.
Yeah, and then they come back and forth, and there's a bit of exchange with the Jedi, but not a real fight. And then this is apparently the bit where the dark side users does something, like a push or something, that will piss off a lot of people, because it's not inherent to the Force. And then done. And then episode 5
supposed to be a cliffhanger,
and it's supposed to be the cliffhanger is they knock all the Jedi down, but it does something, and it's a bit odd, and nobody's ever seen it before. So I don't get how they're going to get that interconnecting again tissue, because it seems that's a lot going on. But what's the middle bits? And I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of running around doing actually nothing.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of plot points just moving from one to the other. That I guess, first of all, my response to that is it sounds terrible, and I can only assume that they're going to butcher any of the connective tissue between those events. And I think what I assume in hearing that they want to kind of run that that part with May where they feel bad for her and all that, I think what they're going to try to set up in this is another redemption story. In terms of, she might end up almost like a Kylo Ren, where she's bad this whole time, but she might sacrifice herself at the last moment to be, redeemed as a good person. A Kylo Ren reenactment. I would say Darth Vader reenactment, but It's more like Kylo Ren. It's going to be done
I
poorly.
kind of agree, but this is where I think it's going to get even stupider. And I'm going to give you my theory here. I think they're going to be a dyad in the Force. And do you remember Hellboy 2?
Yep.
Yeah, and the brother and sister, that if one got hurt, the other one gets hurt.
Yep. Oh, they might play that. Yeah. Oh,
and then, of course, what would happen is, I bet you they do a switcheroo, and May becomes as you just said, she will get redeemed in the most pathetic way, whatever. And then the other sister, because she still doesn't trust her in the redemption, will kill her, hence killing herself. And that's how it is.
Right.
I bet you that's how they do it.
That wouldn't.
The only way it is to do that is because she sees could turn into the dark side to the other dark side user. And I don't know how that's going to play out with that user. Like, they got to kill, well, it's got to die, or there's got to be really butcher into the prequels. But I can just see they're going to play on that dyad. I just can see it. I can't see why they wouldn't, because they've introduced it. It's stupid. So this show is going that way. But yeah, I don't like, for the whole premise of the show, how it's been like running up. I don't get where it's leading to, like, because all it is if they go for the Plagueis, like, and then to the Palpatine story, it's going to feel a bit odd, because there's no lead into it. It's like they've alienated themselves, like even the dark side user. Now, do you think there was a lot of rumors the dark side user is one of the witches, or one of the witches, like another mother who was off planet? I
could see it. I could definitely see it. Given that it would be stupid and not particularly great writing, I could see that. I think for me, the idea of them linking this somehow to Plagueis and Palpatine seems nearly impossible, given that they can't even connect episode 1 to episode 3 at this point. So I don't see how they're going to be able to pull that one off.
But they wouldn't care, would they? It would just be
that's
an shot,
and it'll just be some loose connection. Oh, we did it! Everybody, get ready for season 2.
Yeah, it just show like Palpatine's like in Naboo, he's like great granddad or something. I don't know. I think, like, oh look, like,
I think that shadowy figure being a witch makes one of the witches. Maybe it's the mother that carried them.
Yeah, it could. It's gonna.
Maybe that makes some sense, but I could see them going that route, or maybe just a different one of them. I don't know. Maybe it was the one that screamed randomly during the ritual. Who knows?
But it could have been made more sense if they were disfigured on the floor, and then that's why they're using that weird mask with the teeth. Right. Like there was some breathing apparatus, like kind of doing a Darth Vader ripoff, but at least it would have made kind of sense. Fire, they've got to wear it to keep them alive or whatever. But yeah. It's just like this show could go anywhere because it's not set up anything, and that's the problem. They could just go, and we're doing that now, and everybody, I wouldn't think it's weird because there is nothing going. Oh, you're going down a certain direction. There is a path you're following. The only path we know is, is May needs to kill 4 Jedi for the most pedantic reason so far. Now, if they're going to change that, I don't know, because like you had Carrie-Anne Moss's character. Okay, I hated that scene. I really didn't like it, but then it made less sense when you find out why she's doing it. And then Torben, is it, who kind of self-deletes himself. Right. Doesn't make sense why he's exiled himself in a bubble for like 10 years, they said, didn't they?
Even if it's something like that, and even if it's just the idea of extreme guilt, it's like, for what? You did nothing wrong. Yeah, and then I can't understand where the guilt is from. Now, do you think they're going to explain that? Because we've got now the Wookiee's going to die blatantly, of it's going to be like really done dusted. Then it only leaves Soul. So are they going to explain why that is so bad? That Soul feels so guilty. He kind of wants to redeem the whatever happened, because it was blatantly obvious they didn't start the fire. Right. It's like it was all May's fault. So is she now getting corrupted to believe it was the Jedi? But the Jedi were there to kind of, help and train in a very badly written way, but they were still there trying to do it. So I can't see how they're going to or want to, especially like in what we've got now, episode 4, then there's only 4 more. Why would they need to explain what actually happened? And I'm like, because we've already seen it in a flashback. So why would, but it's
loose cannon kind of like, why does everybody like blaming themselves? So I don't get it, because as soon as like that's why like you have to go back to 2 is where May and I always forget her name. Her other sister,
Osha.
Osha. I always forget. Osha is where they kind of meet for the first time. Then they've got that you're alive,
Right.
and then they could have said it wasn't a Jedi. You know, they could have been that that could have stopped it. So they've left that scene because they wanted the meetup. That was a bit blasé, you know. It was there. So I just don't like. I can't see them even caring for it. And that's the problem. Is like, where are you leading then? Where are you leading to, one, the Wookiee's death, and then possibly Souls? What I would think is a bit weird. But
yeah, I think if anything, that's the character you should keep going forward with. I would say I think I don't expect them to explain any of that, to be honest with you. If they do, I expect them to do it poorly. And I think the best way they can try to write something for May here is that she's just essentially a sociopath who views what happened as the Jedi kind of forced her hand and blames them for it. And she's just sociopathic and doesn't realize that it was, her own fault. That is the best explanation I can come up with for her thinking that they're the one who killed everybody when it was obviously blatantly her doing.
But then I could understand it if it was like, if you're saying it's revenge. I believe this is my conviction. You're not going to change my mind. But then the dark side user is making a not use a weapon, even though daggers are weapons. Yeah. I guess it like that. It's
lasers
like,
and
I can't use
don't work, but you just use one.
if you use a weapon against them, you'll lose against the Jedi. So there's a training element to it. So there's had that discussion of like, oh, it's kind of like rite of passage, I suppose the best way to do it is like, oh, and it's like they've been indoctrinated. May, has been indoctrinated into believing this. But then is that going to be, as you said, is that going to be the redemption? Is like, once you realize the Jedi weren't wrong and it was your fault, then how
do you continue to live on as a good guy? And that's the thing. It's like, I think they want to set up, excuse me. I think they want to set up that redemption arc similar to, Kylo Ren and Darth Vader in the past, even though Kylo Ren was a very poor man's version of that. But every single thing we've seen from May in her existence in the show, from now that we've seen her being a child to now that we've seen her as a full-grown adult, has been legitimately pure evil. She tortures that little creature. She, obviously lights that fire. She randomly jumps to saying she wants to end her sister, lights that fire, ends the whole witches, group, whatever the hell we call it. She's now, ended a few Jedi. Sounds like we're going to lose the Wookiee one at this point. I'm assuming Saul is the hero in all this, and somehow, along with some way that they try to write Osha as one, and somehow survives it. But every action she's done to this point has been pure evil. Like there is no redeeming quality in her character to this point. So I don't know how you just make that switch towards the end.
Yeah, because even if it was even her sister was kind of, it was, I will pull you, back into the light. I don't know what the opposite would be to the thread, but back away from the thread. I don't know, to the knot. I just can't see how they're going to get that with like the lack of like dialogue they've had. Like the pacing's a bit off. So I just can't see like after this episode, like, because they're going to get rid of the Wookiee. Okay, and you're going to get the reveal of the dark side user. But then where does it go? Because the next one is Soul. Then you're going to have as well on top of that this redemption. Now, if they manage like we've got how many Wookiees? I'm sorry, not how many Wookiees. How many Jedi we've got in the trailer? There's like 5. They've got about 5 or 6 like there. That. So they've got now backup. So do they go back and then go get backup? I don't know. Or do they go and find the Wookiee and then say we need backup? And then this tracker then goes to get. How it's a bit odd. And then behind that, they're going to have this weird redemption arc on top of this with somebody that, you blatantly perceive as evil, has no like qualities about them that makes you like the character.
Right.
So it's like that, like how many flaws like Kylo Ren's got, in the writing and the script setup from, things. He was still an interesting character nevertheless. Like that. So you kind of, when it actually, you're like, okay, it's not the greatest writing, but you got there. But like Darth Vader, his arc is, you know, how that was done was brilliant, you know. But this, you're like, what you started off with evil, and you're ending with what? You're gonna end up with good, because there's no like, you could understand if she didn't like, it was the switch, like she was like in the you know, taking care of them like bugs at the tree of life or whatever, and then it was the fire was accidentally started and she tried to put it out, and it you know, it burst over, and then she blamed herself, went evil, and then kind of then got manipulated into the Jedi were bad, you know, and then believed that story. But even with like how the witches were in episode 3, she's got an understanding from when she first sees them, Jedi are bad, and it's like that. So, but I think they're going to push more into the Jedi are bad. I think they're going to try and draw that line, and we've had it from, I can't remember the actor's name, is there's no good and evil in Star Wars.
Yeah, which
I
is
think that's
one of
it
the
was
dumbest
stupid
things.
comment, but that must have been a pitch to him.
Right.
As, oh, what's the show about? You know, before the script. Oh, well, we're going to do it. And there's no good and evil.
He probably had
down the line.
Star Wars was about, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Not even the show. He probably had no idea what Star Wars was even about, if that's what, you know, if he was able to buy that line from them.
But yeah, so I'm guessing they're going to play heavily on that and try and tell the viewer, May's not bad, Osha's not good. It's all I don't know. I suppose grey is the best way to put it.
And that does seem like what they're trying to do. They want to blur that line. They very obviously want to blur that line, but they just haven't set it up properly. And to be honest, it's not good storytelling for the Star Wars universe. It just doesn't fit. I mean, you probably could do it in a good way, but even then, it's like I don't know that I agree with that, you know, that principle as it pertains to Star Wars. And even so, for example, if they were to go with that whole, like, you know, maybe we're just seeing that flashback from Osha's perspective, and maybe there is a side of May who carries guilt and feels like it was an accident, all that. They just haven't done enough to set up that, you know, that idea that would make me believe it by the time they force that switch. You know what I mean? It's like,
do you think they would
just feel like a cop out?
A May point of view? They would have to do like a half episode flashback.
I hope I don't have to relive that whole planet scene.
Imagine that the other way of like, I don't get, like, it was like, but then it would have been, but it wasn't a flashback memory, was it? This one, they would have to do it as like a memory flashback. It's like, oh, I saw this, and then the kind of memory flashback. But that was kind of a point in time. You know, it seemed to be, this is what actually happened. I hope they don't do that.
Oh, God,
then
it would be such a cop out.
Yeah, but I wouldn't put bets against it, would you? And that's the problem. You're like, I don't know what's going to happen, but yeah, it's it's going to be a struggle, I think, going forward. I can't see, just because if there was like, you got to get them at like episodes and series, like, I don't like episode 5, like it was spitballing, but this has got, it was bad, oh, really bad. And that's the problem. There's no like, it was set up right, but this was just a bad filler episode. It's just bad. So the hope going forward, I can't see there's any redeeming characters to the actual story. I can't see it progressing, that people go, you know what, them first 3 episodes were crap. The second half is really good. Like, you just get over the hump, I suppose, like that. It will explain it, but they are terrible episodes to watch. Like, I just can't see this being delivered as a Star Wars project. I can't see it be delivered as a sci-fi project, and that's the problem.
And that's the thing too. It's like, okay, there's times when something can be not quite fitting the IP it was set in, but can still be decent. Like, for example, I enjoyed Blade Runner 2077, whatever it was. It's not a great Blade Runner movie, but I think there's parts of it that are enjoyable enough. You know, they think the cinematography is great. It's a little bit slow, but that's a Denny, forgive me for probably butchering his last name, but Denny Villeneuve, whatever. That's kind of his pace of storytelling anyway. So like, there's things, I gave that movie like a C. I didn't think it was awful, but I think if you grade it on a Blade Runner movie scale, it doesn't do very well. I don't love the story either. You know, I don't want to spoil it for anybody who might not have seen it, but what happens with Harrison Ford's character and you know, the girl at the end, all that. I didn't really love it, but I thought it was decent enough. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen. So that's a perfect example of that. This isn't good in any aspect, whether it be Star Wars, sci-fi, or just a regular ass TV show. It's just not good.
Yeah, That's it. They are like, you do get like just badly, but like I couldn't remember Assassin's Creed, the movie, you know,
Oh god, yeah, that was
Fassbender.
awful.
And I watched it. I was like, I can't remember. And then I was like, oh, there's no wonder I forgot about it. My brain just went, you don't need
Yeah,
that.
just
But
just deleted
but it's not offensive. It's
Right,
not like
right.
it's just bad.
Mhm.
It's just like, it does it hurt the IP? No, it doesn't. It's just a bad movie. This is just like hurtful.
Yeah,
It's just
it was
like, what are you
unforgettably bad.
trying to do? It's like
Mhm.
you're diving into like boredom of Star Wars, and you're just trying to rip up to like change what going forward, because your prequel going into like a prequel, so you've
Right.
got to keep that kind of story set. And it's just like, well, we're only 100 years away, you know, and it's just yeah, I can't see they're gonna able to deliver going any forward. Like for Star Wars, if you just go by the brand, if this is bad, and it looks like they're missing the mark of what's being set in place. So you've got going forward or going back. Now going forward, we've got the Ray movie.
Right,
What
and
is a
which they can't,
terrible
and they can't seem
idea.
to move this universe forward. I mean, they just
No,
can't seem to do it.
no, that's I would skip over. Like, you need to go like Ray's dead. Somehow she got the Jedi back together, you know, or you
Yeah,
know, as it would,
something.
or naturally rebuilt itself, like as it did like 10,000 years ago, you know, like just
Mhm.
rebuild it. You know, you got technology, but then the only other way you can go forward, like do it, is go back and probably do Knights of the Old Republic, what
Right.
everybody fan has always asked for and they've never
Which
done.
right, which no one's gonna want now because we know who's
Yeah,
in charge of it.
yeah, but I think the next one that was I don't know if it's a pre-script or whatever, is like the beginning of the Jedi, isn't it? I don't know what the like
Mhm.
the actual timeline is, what that's called, but they're going back. So they're going back even further. Okay, that could work, but this could have worked, and that's
Right.
the problem. Is everybody's going to be like, yeah, that could have worked, and look what you did with it. You just gave it to somebody who just wanted to give themselves on the screen, or like, you know,
Right.
and have like it. This would be like pitching that you can do Star Wars, or you want to do a show, and I went, oh, we got an opening to Star Wars, and you going, I've never seen Star Wars, can you tell me what it's about? But I've only got 20 minutes, and me telling you Star Wars in 20 minutes, and you going off and writing a show for it. That's what
Mhm.
it felt
Right.
like. And you
Yep.
go, I know the Star Wars, you know,
Right.
because somebody's, you know, giving me a 20-minute speech of it, and
Mhm.
that's it. But unfortunately, there are so many overlayers by not just George, but other people, that now structures the whole galaxy
Right.
of Star Wars. You need to know a little bit about it.
Yeah,
You
I mean, there's a
know?
lot of lore to it. And this is
Mm,
what I hated about. Now, I'm not somebody who read any of the extended universe books or anything like that. I know a
mm.
lot of fans who are incredibly passionate about it. But I disagreed heavily, even without having read them, the immediate decision from Disney to get rid of all of it or make it not canon, because you
Yeah,
knew that this is what was coming. They wanted to rewrite the canon. And the problem with that is, so I know people have a bit of a kind of 50-50 view on prequels. Some don't like them because we already know where the story goes. I personally like a good prequel. I don't have any issue with them fundamentally. They have to be good and they have to fit with what comes next. I thought the prequel trilogy did that pretty well overall. It's why I still enjoy it to this day. Is it flawed? Absolutely. But I enjoyed what was done in those three movies. I think it led into episodes 4, 5, and 6 pretty well. So I enjoyed that prequel. The problem with going further and further back with prequels now is that we know that it leads to the end of the Skywalker saga, which we
yeah,
hate. So it's so hard at this point to actually get hyped up for these prequels when I know it's leading to the destruction of Luke, the getting rid of Han Solo because Harrison Ford doesn't really want to play it anymore, and you needed a plot point to write him out. There's just so much that they did wrong with the forward continuation of the story that now even going back, it's like you said, yeah, a lot of these prequel stuff could be cool. It's just I have a hard time getting hyped for two reasons. One, knowing who's in charge, because I don't trust them to write something good.
no,
And two, they've already ruined the future. So it's like I need to see them make a future set movie or show something first that starts to correct what went wrong, and maybe give me something to look forward to in terms of the future of the universe before I could even get interested. Like, what are they going to do? High Republic at this point? We're going to watch a rock fly a spaceship? Like, I'm not interested, man.
I
I'm
know.
sorry to tell them, but I'm not
I said
interested.
they've now played like really like, oh, look at the High Republic. I'm guessing they're going to stick in that, and they've done the books. Yeah, they've not sold lost a lot of money.
Right.
again, but they've stuck in it and they've stuck
Yeah.
down, doubled down of like, yeah, we
Mhm.
need to do this, and it's just like that. But yeah, without the worst thing they did is they kind of told like they're doing now is, oh, it's brilliant, it's great, the best thing since sliced bread. I don't like everybody's review bombing it, but the sequels, yeah, Rise of Skywalker just left it in a mess. But yeah, that was because of what Ryan left off, and I still done it. He dumped on Star Wars because you killed off the Jedi. You fundamentally just killed off the Jedi,
And
so there's no Jedi. You've just made Star Wars with no Jedi. But they didn't. The best things Lucasfilm, Disney, was to address that straight away. We need to address this because nobody there going, hold it. How do we go forward? We've only got Rey. Excuse me. Damn it. But they didn't address that situation. They should have done it straight away. So if they wanted to go forward, you go, it's been addressed. It makes sense. We can look forward to something. Then them going to just release like the Rey movie, people are just going to go, but it was dumb. She was like dumb.
I didn't like the last 3 Rey movies, basically.
So so why am I going to like now get hyped up about a thing that you've destroyed? Like, is she going to come back as like all ever god of Jedi?
Which that's most likely how they'll write it.
Yeah, she will be. I did everything right again. Yay! It was 20 years later, and I'm now head of everything.
And not for nothing, but that was supposed to be the end of the Skywalker saga. But you guys, they shot themselves in the foot by doing this. Oh, I'm actually Rey Palpatine Skywalker. It's like, to be honest with you, as much as I hated the idea of her being a Palpatine, not so much the idea of it in concept, but the way it was done. The bringing back the Emperor was silly. The reveal of the bloodline wasn't well written. But I will give them this credit. There could be a interesting story in finding out, in a better way that she does have Palpatine, blood or ancestry. And then she redeems the name of Palpatine instead of just assuming the Skywalker name, because redeeming the name of Palpatine would have fit better in line with good and bad, the choices and how to kind of redeem it. But this time, instead of redeeming herself, it's redeeming a lineage. There was probably something interesting there. They just screwed the pooch and decided to make a Rey Skywalker. Like, what were you thinking?
But that was them going, oh, people have heard that name more than Palpatine. You're like, okay, I get you that because of Luke, but you just killed Luke off and you need to end the Skywalker saga. And they've even said themselves was like, we need to come away from the Skywalker saga. And then they go, and we're doing Rey Skywalker. You're like,
how do we do that? We change her name entirely to a lineage she does not share an ounce of blood or DNA with, and just let her adopt a name that is not hers.
But the only way they could even set this up to make this make sense is she's been training. Yeah, she's gone out there, however, found some Force sensitive kids, and started training themselves, maybe with Force ghosts or whatever. You don't know. But then the only way you could do that is have an alien race that come in that are more powerful than Jedi to be the threat, or they're just going to do what we've seen before. Oh, light side turn dark side. And that'll be it, and that'll be boring. So there's so many legends you could do with all like different races that can come into the galaxy, but I just don't think they're clever. That's the problem.
Well,
I just don't think
that's it in a nutshell. They don't have the cleverness to write a good story, plain and simple.
But it's even that is like they're not clever enough to learn from like what is now Legends, because you got the Kenobi book novel. I've read it. It's got flaws. But there was bits in it you could have taken to make the Kenobi series, because I would have been more interested in the Kenobi series if it was just him for like really coming with terms in a couple of episodes and then having like an adventure on Tatooine, but not leaving the planet. But they just kind of didn't do that. Like they could have taken the Kenobi novel, just take like, we like that bit, we're going to change it a little bit because it's quite a clever book. It's it's not the greatest written, and it draws, it draws it out a little bit too much, playing on, we're Star Wars, but the concept is there to give you a good bit. And you're not telling me there's not got bits in different bits of legend. They can go, that's good. That is good. We can just build on that, because one, people, the hardcore fans, as you said, will really have embedded and read it. You just don't butcher it enough to piss them off, but you kind of vaguely get the same similarities there to make it interesting to people. But then, you got it there. Just use it. It's like there's a guide. It's like a helpful, like how-to guide for Star Wars now. It's like that. Even if you were like, I like it, I can build in it, I'm going to change it, flip it around, but I like the idea, but we're not going to reference anything from it. Okay, you're going to rip it off. Great. but do that then. But they're trying to give this own. No, we're better. We're better than them
We
guys.
know how to tell it better,
we're
right.
better than like anybody else who wrote this before. We know better, and that's the problem. I think they actually do. And like with this one, there's no way that any one of the producers, unless they're all shoved up their own arse, sat down and watched these at least these 3 episodes and went, that is brilliant. That is brave and absolutely brilliant. Well done. Clap. You're not telling me one of them went, oh no, what have we done? What have we just made?
Oh, somebody in there must have, but they're probably just forced to silence at this point. Like, I can't really speak out, but good luck with this one, guys.
What was it? Or where they literally went, oh, we need to do the narrative. We need to have that. Oh, fans are bad. We're good kind of stuff.
Because and they started with that.
Away.
Right. Yeah, they started with that right out of the gate. And and a perfect, like the example of that book is it's like you have a house that's got a great foundation, but it's got a ton of cosmetic issues. You don't rip up the whole foundation. You could just simply fix those cosmetic issues, wrap it up, repackage it. Yeah. Still the same foundation, but the house looks much better this time around. Instead, they just drill holes and they don't even use the foundation. They just go to the plot next door that's on wetlands and try to build a house that sinks. It's just bizarre.
It is.
I can't understand it.
But yeah,
is that Obi-Wan book part of the lore, that the extended universe lore that they decided to take out of continuity, or is that
complete?
Still?
Yeah, I'm sure that's why they want nothing to do with it. Right. Yeah, because all the ones I really like, it's books down there. It's literally not just the Jedi code, it's got the Sith code, it's got the smugglers thing, it's got the Empire's code, it's got it's just a book of like a Wikipedia for like if you're a Jedi, this is like your history and what you do, and the same as the Sith, and like if you want to be a smuggler, it's got a bounty hunter book and the rules you've got to follow, and it's just a very simple, really interesting book of somebody's take on if you want to do this, there are rules, but they made them no, got to get them out. But they haven't broken any continuity into those, except for probably the ranking system in the Jedi is gone.
That's evident in this show,
what a lightsaber color means, because even in this one, she got asked, didn't she, in one of the interviews, because the person interviewing blatantly knew more about Star Wars, who did you know who would have what color sabers, and the meaning behind it. And she was like, oh no, just what looked good on screen.
Right. And it looks good when you go to Galaxy's Edge and you can sell a lot of different color lightsabers, a lot more than just
and I was like, oh, that is nice. But they've got rid of that, what yellow meant, it's just, oh, it's a pretty color, it's but everybody's forgets, even I can't remember, the Brits will have to help me out here. There was Chris Evans in the UK. I think the show was Don't Forget Your Toothbrush. And it was in the 90s, and Samuel L. Jackson was on it. And it was big at the time. It was when the rumors started coming out really heavily. George Lucas is doing, a new Star Wars.
Right.
And they were just around the thing. And I still remember it. I remember it because I'm a big Star Wars fan. And they were like, oh, would you like to be in Star Wars? And he went, oh my God, of course I would. But I would only do it if I had a purple lightsaber. And he was laughing. He was joking. And it was on because Chris Evans, everybody knows, this, really third-rate British TV presenter asked was mucking around with him, and he was playing off that. But then he got back, you could have Samuel L. Jackson, he really loves Star Wars, he wants to be in it. And then I bet you it turned into, he would only do it if you get a purple lightsaber. And then of course the interview, and there's other ones where Samuel Jackson kind of was like, oh yeah, we met, and he brought out showed me that they were going to give me a purple lightsaber. I didn't want to tell him it was a joke, but I loved it. It's what do you know? I didn't mean that.
And that's one of the things too. There's a little bit of good humor behind it. It's done. Is it done with the most lore, with the biggest interest in the lore of Star Wars? No, maybe not. Now, question: did they actually change any lore to give a reasoning to that purple lightsaber? I can't remember. Or did they just kind of leave it that he had one?
I remember. I think it is in some of the comics now. I'm not sure. I haven't gone that deep. But they did it kind of, he draws from the dark side.
Oh, I see.
Because they introduced the
which is interesting. Yeah. It's more interesting than they looked pretty on screen. That's for sure.
Because I know a lot of people don't like the new way why red is red.
Right.
I don't mind it, and I still think this is actual canon. Is when a dark side user goes and gets their crystal, they bleed into it. And that's how they corrupt it, and that's why it gives
Okay.
it that tone. And they bleed into it, and it makes it red. I'm sure that's the canon one. There's been variations of why. I don't mind that version. I don't mind it. Of like, you know, you got to bleed
Makes
into
enough
it.
sense.
And that's what they've. A lot of people with the terrible poster, the original poster with the blood.
Yeah.
That's what May is. The rumor May will do the bleeding. And that's what the blood is from the lights. Is when she does it, and she will have her hand just full of blood with the thing, and she'll enter it, and it's like that. And I was like, okay, I get what you're trying to do, because it's in, you know, it is in, I think it is in a Disney comic. They've said that. But how you did not look at that poster and went, that something looks a bit odd.
Yeah, right. Something's off here.
And I think it took like literally minutes. Everybody like variations of that meme literally come out, and nobody realized that. But yeah, I can see him playing that, and that'd probably be, you know, after she kills all the Jedis. Oh, now you can have a weapon. You know, you're strong enough with the dark side. And
even though you apparently don't need one based off that dialogue, and you would have gone through your whole mission not needing one, but now you can have one. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Logic,
there will be. It's odd.
They need to incorporate, even in that first episode, at that last scene, they need to incorporate the red saber, because that's what gets all the YouTube reactors of he vadered. It's that red signifies the Sith, the dark side, and for them, that's all they need. They don't need to hear a good story about it. They just need to see it, and they do the whole gasping face thumbnail, and you know they get.
But that's it. That is the. Haven't they said there is going to be a fight scene that is equal to Obi-Wan's and Anakin's fight?
Good luck.
I'm waiting to see it.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I haven't seen a good fight scene yet in this show, to be honest with you.
But it's not even that. Literally, since Disney's taken over, everybody uses it like they're like swinging a baseball bat. That's what I call it, because they've got no rhythm
to it.
Yeah, no. And even when they're like having like the fights, the fight scenes, it's like the choreography is like you're dancing, and then you've been told to strike. There's no fluidity of like how, you know, how a duelist would do it. Even if they were going to like, you know, go back, it's like nobody's understood how, you know, combat would actually work. You know, if you can use the force as well, and you're going to be super strong, super fast, how you would counteract that. It's just like hit it as hard as you can from an angle that they can counteract quite easily, because they've got force abilities. Whereas like, you know, Anakin and Obi-Wan's fight, that was so well done, of like, you know, they're like, they know each other's skill base. They've seen each other fight and what they would have to do. That's why people go, oh, it's a little bit over the top sometimes. No, because they just counter.
They're masters of their style. And look at another perfect example is Obi-Wan and Darth Maul. Obi-Wan and Darth Maul is a very, very good saber fight scene. It kind of was the first one to really change, because, you know, we can be honest, the original trilogy saber scenes aren't the most fluid. You know, they were still trying to figure out what to do with the technologies and all that. So fair enough. But for what they were at their time, it was great. Then you get to the prequels, and they really upped the level of the action in those movies, where it felt like smooth, fluid. They each know not only a mastery of their fighting styles, but of each other's as well, because they're that well trained, and it came off wonderfully. Then you fast forward to this fight with her and the Endora Onueda, I think is Trinity from the Matrix character. Yeah. And like you said, I even mentioned that in my review. I'm like, it looks like a dance routine. It doesn't look like there's any real action or any real fight. There's a lot of turn taking, you know, guys getting his blaster stuck in his holster just so that she can use the table and kick it toward. Like, the whole thing is just like poorly. It reminded me a lot of the fight scenes from the Echo show. Hopefully you didn't, not harm yourself by watching that show, but I did for a review. And it reminded me a lot of that, where it's just turn taking, and we've got to make sure that she comes out as the badass. So everyone's going to take their turn. It's going to be very over choreographed in a poor way.
But this is what I say, like, they don't seem to hire the correct person. It's a terrible movie, Roadhouse, the remake.
Yeah.
With, but the last fight scene, it ends a bit odd. They look like they're kicking the crap out of each other. Right. But who choreographed it? I don't think
either one walks away from it.
McGregor.
Right.
He's the person who went, this is how we fight. This is what we're going to do. You know, they learned off each other, because I'm a fighter. This is how you would fight. This is how you would scrap.
Right.
But like for some reason, and I did it. I had a stink like in Andor and in Kenobi, is because they don't seem to be able to get anybody who's either in the military to go now. It's like, how would you walk in formation, especially like nobody does it. Like nobody can march anymore, and it's like that. And nobody can fight. There's no fighting. It's literally dancing around, like prancing around. So there's like, I don't get how they can't hire. Like you've got like personnel who are going to be in the military or in the police force. So you get somebody who can go, this is how you march, this is how you are, because you're actors, and this is what you're going to do. This is how you hold a weapon. And then you wouldn't get the same as now, and like somebody who can fight, who, you know, they've got to be like master sword fighters out there who can go, okay, we don't fight like that, but if you had a lightsaber, well, how would you fight? I guarantee they would know. They'd be like, yep, you should change the style. And then like, but it's not even like like you said, the characteristics of the fighting style has already been established. So they can just go, look, this is what they do if you're a variation of A, B, or C. You know, there's like what, there are 9, I can't remember how many forms, 9 forms for a Jedi. Yeah, something like that. So you got that, and then you could even bring in like, okay, we're gonna do, the Jedi have their forms, and then they could introduce, oh, sorry, you're gonna have your new the dark side user is going to use something you don't know because they just do a variation of something, you know, train themselves, or, you know, it's a dark side use. So it's bizarre.
And that's frequent throughout. I mean, even just like a smaller example of them not using proper kind of training and tactics and things. In the second episode, you see when they're trying to construct that plan for Osha to pose as May and go in and talk to whoever the hell the guy is May was working with. You have Yord, who comes out and uses a very, at least basically tactical plan of, look, we're going to surround the place. We're going to take him captive. We're going to bring him back to the ship, and we're going to question him. And then you have the Padawan come in and say, yeah, or like all dismissive, or we could just have her fake like she's her and go in there and get all the information. Like, there's no realistic way somebody who believed their sister to have been dead all this time is going to be able to mimic her mannerisms, her movements, her relationship with that individual in order to even speak to him in a way that the person wouldn't find a bit off-putting or a bit curious. And sure enough, Saul just goes, yeah, that's a great plan. It's like, no, it's not. The great plan was the one before it, but there's no tactical logic behind it. It's bizarre.
Yeah, they just do set up how to get, okay, we want to get into that building. Right. And we want to do something. You want to use something.
What's the quickest, easiest way to do it?
Okay, just on the fly. It is, it doesn't match. But then the mannerisms that the people speaking it, not just the end product, doesn't match. It's like the Padawan, I can't remember, she was in Logan, wasn't she? Like a couple other things. She's like, her delivery is like she answers everybody back, and that's what I'm saying. There's no system anymore.
Yeah, there's no ranking system, no respect for superiors, nothing. It's like that entire, since she comes into the episode or into the series, she's incredibly dismissive and disrespectful towards Yord for essentially no reason at all. Like we get no reason as to why. It's like they're trying to make some humor, but it's at the expense of Yord's character instead of just making a good joke. And frankly, none of them were really all that funny.
Yeah, it is a bit odd. It's the thing is, like with Yord, is even when it's dismissive, like there's like when he takes the top off, there was no need to that side. But the only reason was that side is to make a joke so she can do her eyes rolling in the back of her head and go, oh, look at you. But I'm like, but he's still a master, like he's still a Jedi Knight, isn't he? You're a Padawan, so back off. He still outranks you. It's still like you're still in a hierarchy system. So it's like that, and then it's just all that submissive. But I don't get what they're going to do with those two characters, because they're kind of making Yord like, I suppose, like
they're making him like a goofball or something.
Like is he supposed to be the funny relief, but he's not. And then
he comes in seemingly very serious in that first scene when he goes to the ship to question Osha. He seems to be a pretty serious character. And then all of a sudden he's this goofball that this young Padawan is just making fun of and dismissing off the cuff, which it's like, who is this character versus the stern one we just saw 2 scenes ago? Yeah, it's just bizarre.
Yeah, I don't get what they like with the supporting Jedi, because we've said about Soul, how they would get with Soul going forward is what's the name things. Hold it. Let me just do something here. I'm just gonna. I'm a bit bored of your stupid comments, so you're gonna get banned. There you go.
You talk about in the weeds. Somebody's on the weed. It seems like.
Poor. Yeah. Let's just put you on a bit of a timeout, shall we? There we go. Those stupid comments. So
Those are your diehard defenders.
Yeah,
You
that's
can't take a
defenders,
single
yeah.
criticism of a lack of logic.
Yeah, let's just
Okay.
put you on a
Thanks for the
comment.
view. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's yeah, like you think because you've got like they with the new like we've seen the trailers, they've got the supporting cast of Jedi. Let's say that, but you've got Yord and I can't remember. I'm just going to call her Padawan. Yeah,
fair
who
enough.
they're the and Soul. They're the three. Yeah, and we got green haired green alien who comes out with the light whip. When that's going to come out, that's going to be amusing. So we've got that 4. That's the established 4. But then in the trailers, we've got other ones. So they're just going to bring Jedi in to just kill them off. There's no things, because if you're going to like set up like Soul's the leader, he's the one who's driving this show near enough. So he's the leader Jedi. But then you've got the Padawan, and you've also got Yold. What is their point? Like, are they just going to do like a C3PO R2D2 moment? They're just going to play off each other, kind of be that kind of funny and dismissive. Funny,
that's not very funny.
Yeah, but then what would that do with the show? It's like you're going into and all you know is somebody's killing Jedi. Really, that's kind of why. They might be, you kind of know it's May, but there might be something, there's probably something behind it. They've already you couldn't have done it by yourself, so they know that. So they're going into danger. So that goofy moments, it just wouldn't fit right. That's the problem.
Yeah, tonally, it doesn't quite fit. And in terms of execution of actually making it funny, 1, it's not. And 2, you're not making jokes. You're making jokes of a character, which is only going to make it harder to take that character seriously in any aspect of the show going forward. And not only that, it makes the Padawan pretty unlikable as well, because she just comes off as this little dismissive know-it-all that, like, why am I supposed to like this character? She's very rude. Because call me crazy, but I'm not a fan of rude people.
Yeah, because she's Soul's like Padawan. So you would think she wants to learn off the other Jedi. And she's giving this great thing, come on an away mission. And actually, it's a bit of Star Trek there, but go on a away mission. But you've got other Jedi you're going to learn off. Stick close to them. I've got to do my thing, but you're going to learn a lot. And then she is just like, oh, I know better than you. Oh, I'm just, as you say, she's really rude, really dismissive. But yeah, it's
and you can even look at an example of that with Obi-Wan in the Phantom Menace, where Obi-Wan doesn't necessarily agree with Qui-Gon wanting to take on Anakin, and he pushes back on it a bit, but respectfully, knowing his place in the Order and respectfully. And eventually that makes the kind of character arc great for him, where because, Qui-Gon, dies in that battle with Darth Maul, he then, out of respect for him, still not quite agreeing with the process or the reasoning, but out of pure respect for him and that hierarchy, he then wants to take Anakin on as his Padawan. So it creates a great character arc, and you can do it well. Like, you can do a Padawan pushing back on a master in a respectful way, in a way that works and makes sense, and actually ends up being a great character arc.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think, just like how they would get, but that would be redeeming the Jedi, and this show is not about the Jedi.
Not trying.
The Jedi are a simple tool to kind of get everybody's heard of the Jedi. It would be that's the tool to move May's story and Osha's story onwards to get to the big battle fight with the the dark side user. What would the reveal be that would make it interesting? Nothing at the moment. That's the thing, because if they like the mask off or whatever, oh my god, it's you. It's just going to be a Scooby-Doo moment.
Right.
That's the problem.
I would have gotten away with it.
It would either be the guy who's who did the poison. It would be one of the witches, or it would the only other person it could be would be the green alien. That is the only character, because they've not established a world building. They've just established characters, because there's no other. Oh, could there be the Palpatine? Of course, everybody, like, if you a prequel, most people got it was. He's there,
right?
You can see him on screen, but how they set it up is
they still played it
they've got that political, But in this, they're not setting that up. There's no other elements out there that could be in trouble, because we've seen everybody. We've seen everything that's going on. So only if they did Ryan Johnson loves doing it. Something that's not seen is the villain, or something happens that it doesn't make sense. Oh, it's a surprise. Well, hold it. It wasn't in your. It wasn't ever there to begin with. They could do that. and that would be even worse
And
storytelling.
it'll work for some hardcore defenders, and
Mm,
they can they can enjoy that, but that just doesn't cut it for me. That's bad
yeah.
storytelling. It's lazy storytelling. And what I think on top of it is like, you actually just made a good point. It would be kind of interesting if that green alien, maybe the reason she was so dismissive of, not dismissive, she wasn't actually dismissive, but maybe why she was so focused on trying to sweep it under the rug before kind of obliging Saul's request to look into it a bit further in terms of the OSHA accusation. Maybe she was sweeping it under the rug because she is behind some of this stuff, but it just does, at least 3 episodes in, and we'll see 4 tonight, it doesn't feel like they've really done anything to set that up. There's probably a cool story to tell there. I'm just not seeing how you've planted those seeds or how you cultivate them, going forward.
No, there would have to be a turn in, just not just the show, just in the style of writing, how they would deliver it.
Which I don't think is happening anytime soon.
I just don't think they've got anybody, if it's like in that writer's room, who's going to go, yeah, take the lead and go, no, I've got a great idea from episode 4 onwards. And that's it. It just seems they're just going to mundanely beat her along with the same kind of task that they're doing. Is like, no, we need to get to the sister arc, I suppose, like that.
We need to get to A to B to C to D, and we don't care how it connects.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, on that note, I think we hit the 2-hour mark.
Yeah.
That's good. Right, but yeah. So if you had, what would you, just see if you're right, what would you say out of 10 that you think this show's gonna, like this episode is gonna hit? Not the show, this episode. So I think, which is kind of sad to say, I think the first 2 episodes were probably the best we've seen, and I have heard that is the best the series has. And last one I'll give a 3 because I think it was truly awful. It was on par with some of the worst storytelling I've seen this year, with things like Madam Web and stuff like that. I think it's probably going to be in the 3 range. I'm hoping they don't go less towards the 2s, but from what we hear, it just sounds like it's only going to nosedive. Yeah, I think I think this is going to be the blandest episode. I think nothing's going to actually happen. I think it's going to piss off people, with the pronoun thing. Understand, like, yeah, okay, go that way, gonna hate it, and that will get a lot of people shouting on social, and people going the other way, whatever.
Which is what they want for a plane.
Understandable, left and right, whatever you want to say on that. But I think this is just going to be, they're going to build nothing, and then they're going to give that cliffhanger, and the cliffhanger won't make any sense because it's just been a episode, and I think that's what they're gonna. It's just going to be, oh, I'm really bored. I think how they ended it. They should have, dragged it on. But if the rumors are true and they kill off the Wookiee straight away, you don't really see actually what happened. You just find a dead Wookiee. That's a bad build-up, and that's the problem. Is like, if they do that, the main, I suppose, promotional material was for like Carrie-Anne Moss. Even the Wookiee had a lot of things to say. Literally, you're killing off your marketing material really quick, but you're not doing it in a very Game of Thrones moment. Let's just say that, where it was, oh, I didn't expect that. You're just like, okay, we know what's coming next, and
there's no red wedding coming in this show. I can guarantee you that.
Well, that would be a surprise. Imagine that.
It would be a surprise. That's for sure.
Yeah, right. Yoda turns up. What happened here? But everybody,
it's going to be rough, but we'll see.
Yeah. So thanks for having a little bit of a ching wag about.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And and the her everybody. Jay Nerd Takes link is in the description. Go and give him a follow. Give everything a like. But everybody who coming in to join, a little chat. Hopefully, the show does get better. I always think that.
I'd love to see it.
But yeah, everybody, I'm going to do my live reaction review tomorrow, UK time, some lunchtime for me. But you've got it in a few hours now. So yeah, that's it. So
let me know when you're doing your review, because I'd be happy to hop on and give my take too. If it works out time zone wise. If not, no big deal.
That'd be cool. But yeah, we have to see. Might do some more of these if it's good.
Absolutely.
I mean, I enjoy Star Wars. chat. That's
Yeah, and
always
I
good.
think
Yeah.
this is what annoys me is that people think that, if you're critical of it, you enjoy just crapping on it. I don't.
Mm.
I would much rather talk about the prequels, the original trilogy, why I love them, why they're great. We did a good chunk of that during this little podcast in terms of explaining why those were better than what we're getting now.
Yeah.
But that's
That's
not what
why
we're
I
getting
think as
now, so
soon
we
as
can
you
only
like,
talk about what's in front of us.
yeah, as soon as you criticize one little bit, you don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not
The
how it works.
sensitivity to criticism is out of control.
Yeah, we can just see that there could be a lot better, and we're always hoping. I always hope, but I just like, who's in charge now? There needs to be some stripping, because one, it just doesn't make, like, if you actually just went off by business sense, you're like, that's a bit odd. Why
Right.
are you making everything that keeps on losing? It's just
Mhm.
it's just odd. Logic doesn't work sometimes. You're like,
Well,
I
and
don't understand why you want it to be bad.
look at the shows that have been worldwide phenomenons in the past. A lot of
Mhm.
HBO ones. You had The Sopranos. You had Game of Thrones for such a long period of time. Like, people enjoy those worldwide phenomenons that everybody gets to talk about the next day. Everybody gets to just gush over and rave about. That is so much more successful than writing crap. And I
Oh,
can't
yeah.
understand the reason of going the opposite way and writing these kind of shows.
It's like, yeah, like you got people writing who not really kind of dived into cinema history. Let's
Mm,
just say that, or even TV history of like how to write, not even
right.
how to write a good one. Just like, yeah, you got some great like B movies that are really well written. They were let down by the set. This one's got everything. It's got the budget. It's got an established IP. You just got to work around it. But yeah,
Right.
they failed in every way to do it. But yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm guessing the socials will blow up again. I think
Oh
this is
yeah.
now
Keep an eye on
you're gonna have,
Twitter or
yeah,
X.
yeah, it's gonna be, I think, whatever you're gonna get either side. If you do like it, you do like it. That's
Yeah, all
great.
the
But
power
you've
to you.
got
I'm
to
not
understand.
right.
But you're
All the
gonna
power
get,
to
I
you.
say, either side now. It's got to that point. You're gonna get the piss taken out of you.
Right.
That's
No,
the problem, and that's the thing. If you got to have a bit of a stand by your statements, whatever you think it is, but just be kind, because you're gonna get trolls. Add one today,
right. And that's the
and
thing.
ones
It's like
who
if
just
you
can't.
if you
Go on.
enjoy Star Wars as it is currently, all the power to you, man. My
Yeah.
disliking of it or my criticism of it doesn't have to have any
Mm.
effect on your enjoyment of it.
Yeah.
The fact that anybody lets it is just such a bizarre thing to me.
Yeah.
But
I don't like
if
that
you like
episode.
it, I'm almost jealous. I'm almost envious
Yeah.
of you because I wish there was still Star Wars for me to like. So I
Yeah,
mean,
that would be
if you
great.
like
Yeah,
it,
if
all
I
the
was
power to
like,
you, man. You don't have to be rude
if I
about
was
it.
like,
I'm simply talking.
I don't get why everybody hates it. I still love it. I'd be like, great, because
Yeah.
I'd be in a better, you feel, oh, you'd be looking forward to it. But now, Star Wars, you look at, you're like, oh, this one might do it. Episode, oh no, and you just let down. That's the problem. You just
Right.
get deflated.
Continuously
You look
let
for
down.
it, you're like let down. The thing is, and like even to the point, like one thing, right? A Star Wars episode or film, just stop getting these people like talking
Yeah.
about it beforehand. Like, yeah, do the old style kind of the really mundane talking about the show like they used to do. Like, just get them stop talking about themselves or like
Right.
their opinions about the past or something, especially when they're established IP. If that's like Marvel, they just don't know what they're talking about, and that's
Yep.
it. And that
I
goes down
agree.
to what Anthony Hopkins once said. They're just actors are played. Most of them are dumb or whatever. I can't
Yeah.
remember what he said.
Fair
But yeah,
enough.
it's like, yeah, monkeys reading lines. That's it.
Yeah,
That's what he said.
that's what's Nerdrotta call them, adult pretenders. At the end of the day, that's
Yeah,
what it is, bunch of
yeah,
adult pretenders.
exactly.
So just,
But
I don't know.
yeah, but everybody, I hope you had a great one. Always here to joy. Yeah, definitely you'll be doing a review on this. I will do a live reaction on the next one. It's always going to be a fun, but this show ain't going anyway fast. So weekly reviews is going to come out. But everybody, I hope you had a lovely time with us too. Like first time we've done a one-on-one. So I hope you enjoyed it. A little bit dynamic. And until, do you want to plug anything on?
No, nothing in particular. If anybody wants to check out the channel, please feel free. I'm doing a little bit of everything these days: some streaming, movie reviews, TV reviews, a little bit of gaming news, stuff like that, even movie updates and news. So feel free to stop by the channel, drop a sub, drop a like, and hey, even if you don't like me, drop a dislike because it's all good for the algorithm. I don't care.
Yeah. But yeah, all right, cool, excellent. All right, everyone, have a great evening, afternoon, morning, or whatever you're doing. Until next time, Stasis Geek out.
Take care.